All right, Justin, Anica, and
Bowden.
All right, I'm going to pull the microphone over here. Oh, you guys have to remember.
Close.
The microphone, so it turns like this a little bit. You want to talk into this section, like right there. And you can turn that there.
Perfect.
And make sure it comes over here and you feel comfortable.
Yeah,
and you can
I'll
just grab it and move it around if you guys want. If you say, no, I don't want you, like what you're saying, let me have this. You're wrong. Let's just make sure you're in there. You're in the great. Yeah. So,
cool.
This is going to be cut down into a lot of 1 minute things. So don't worry about being right or saying things right. AI is beautiful these days. It will help us edit. But this is, like I said, I wanted to make some videos that my 4 kids, would say, I wonder what Dad thinks about this, like in the future, or my grandkids. So that'd be 12 people. And this is actually for an audience of 12. And I thought this is also a time capsule for him and anybody else in your family to kind of share some of your ideas and thoughts and rants on what you think is right. Maybe 10 years from now, we'll think is wrong.
Yeah, I love that. That's awesome.
I love it a lot.
It's true.
So with the podcasting, I just discovered it's such a nice time capsule, sort of like what we had for photos. Because I saw a photo of my daughter. She just left for 2 weeks to go to see a friend in North Carolina. But when I was at the computer yesterday, I looked up on the wall. It was a picture of her when she's maybe 12. And it's like, wow. Yeah. She's like hanging on me.
Crazy.
And like, yeah, but I feel like this is a little bit of that for our kids to go like, oh yeah, or just a time capsule, like a memory of what we're all about.
It's intentional recording.
Yeah.
So tell the world a little bit about you guys, what you're doing in Reading.
That's great.
Who you are.
We're still trying to figure that out.
Well, same.
No, I'm Justin Zani, and
so you want to have it a little closer, Okay. So you want to watch like just about this close.
So all right, as long as you don't mind if he throws up on it.
No, throw up.
I'm gonna give him actually a toy to hold on to.
I might hand him to you if I'm talking.
Or me.
That's
we can just pass him around.
We'll play pass the baby.
Yeah, so I mean, Ani and I moved here in 2013, I would say, and then Ani moved here in 2019. We met.
What month were you in 2013?
Oh man, I came out here August, I think.
Oh, we beat you. We're January 4th.
Yeah, sweet. You're right on.
Oh my gosh,
yeah, I think August was. I'd come out in July for a worship school, and then I came back for ministry school in August. Yeah, so I've been here since then. Ani's been here since 2019. And then I met her pretty much right when she got here, which was the Lord, honestly.
Saw a good thing.
Yeah. Saw a good thing and prayed that it could happen, and the goodness of the Lord showed up. So, but yeah, and then we got married in 2020, right in the beginning of COVID. And then
we got married in the summer, so it was right in like the thing.
Oh, it had been a couple months, Yeah, that's true.
Was it one of those weddings where nobody was allowed to be there and there was no masks and hazmat suits?
Yeah, it was like a lull in that. There was like, it was pretty intense, and then there was like a week off.
Yeah.
We got married in North Dakota. So she's from North Dakota. I'm from Montana. We got married in her hometown. And there was weirdly like a week off, I would say.
It was kind of a lull. Like we couldn't actually plan the wedding until really last minute, but it ended up being just like right in between a nice little lull break in the COVID crazy. And so it was awesome. We actually ended up having a pretty normal wedding. Like we had 200 and something people.
Oh, wow.
The interesting thing was we had a lot of family. Like one of his sister lives in England and I have family in Canada. So certain people couldn't come because they couldn't travel. So there's a lot of people who couldn't come. So that was the one bummer about it. But outside of that, it felt pretty normal. I don't think anyone was wearing masks. I think everyone was ready to like not be in the COVID. They're like, we want to party. So it ended up being pretty awesome, actually.
It was great.
It was fun. Fun party. But
I remember in the middle of summer, so many clients come in from other places and they're like, finally, we're over. And that's what we thought.
Totally.
Nobody's playing the game at that point. Unless you're in a big city.
Yeah, that's true, actually.
So, a COVID wedding.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so
it was great. We stopped, I guess after the wedding, our honeymoon was literally going to all the national parks on the way back.
Oh man, that'd be amazing.
It
was good.
Got canceled.
Oh yeah.
National parks ended up being a win. So.
Yep, went to all the national parks and it was still closed down, so you had to sign up for a lot of things that you wanted to do. But But it was pretty empty, and it was really fun. So got married, came back here, and then I am a tattoo artist. She's a teacher, and so pretty much just picked that right when we got back. Yeah, and then last summer, so not this last one, but the summer before, we had planned that whole bike trip. So everything kind of had worked up to that point.
Tell us about the bike trip, because that's kind of crazy.
Yeah, so there were 6 bike riders, me, Anica, her cousin Asta, her husband Jordan, and then my younger brother Evan and our friend Tanner. So us 6 decided to bike across the United States. Are you missing?
Jump in here for a second. Justin and his brother had this dream for a long time to bike across America, and none of us, the rest of us, necessarily did. And we were just hanging out one day, and they were like, "Hey, would you guys ever do this with us?" We're like, "Yeah, we'd do that with you."
Yeah.
And it slowly snowballed. And he's like, "Okay, cool. We're gonna start telling people that we're gonna do this." And so
I would basically tell every person I tattooed that we were going to bike across the country next summer. And when we were talking about doing it, I think we were all on a road trip to North Dakota, Minnesota area when we were talking about this. And we're like, well, if we're going to do it, let's do it for something, because it's, 50 plus days of intentional riding. We're doing something crazy. We can draw in people's attention to hopefully change something. So I think in the van, we came up with the slogan, do something that does something, and just turn the thing that you're passionate about into something that can actually influence people in a positive way, or change their life in a positive way, or bring people on board to help in a positive way. I think there's so much, and we noticed this so much when we first started, is like people want to help, but they don't know outlets to help. They're not seeking out outlets to help. It's usually like, this might sound bad, but it's easier to have them help if you make it super easy. Give us, it's more like, we'll create the bowl if you can just walk by and put stuff in it, and we'll give it to the right people. So that's kind of what we decided to turn our bike trip into, was a bike trip across the U.S. to raise money and awareness to fight human trafficking. And the organization that we partnered with is actually based out of North Dakota, out of Fargo, and they're called Unseen. And to just kind of quickly describe what they do, they're a nonprofit that helps other nonprofits become seen. So they help fund nonprofits. So they take on partners. I think they have around 25 partners at a time in 41 different countries that are all actively fighting specifically child trafficking, slavery, just trafficking in general, but specifically with kids. And they help kind of take the burden of fundraising off of these nonprofits. It's like, you guys are really good at doing these things. Right. We don't want your attention to just go to trying to raise money so you can operate. Yeah. And it just takes away from the whole life of the nonprofit, honestly.
Yeah, so the people who started it, I've actually known for a really long time. They're like good family friends. And so back when they were in like college, I was probably in elementary school, but my parents kind of were a part of like the dream and vision of it. But they had video skills and marketing skills and like website design skills and things like that they wanted to use for good. And so they're like, okay, how can we actually help people with this? So that's kind of what they do. How it originally started was, let's go find these ministries that don't actually have any of that and like be their team to help them. Yeah.
That's what he thinks about it.
Painful poopy?
Yeah, something like that.
He might.
I know. I was like, it's either tired or pooping. Who knows?
We find out shortly.
I was thinking that you might be able to pick it up on the microphone.
Yeah.
There you go. But yeah, so that's kind of where they started, was like giving people that kind of, I don't even know. Yeah.
Giving them the resources that are impossible for them on the front lines.
Totally.
Absolutely impossible.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And they've done so much. I mean, so initially when we started, that was kind of like the low-hanging fruit of like, we know these people that are doing these things. We're all really passionate about seeing trafficking come to an end. Yeah. And we know that Unseen has made a huge impact in that world. So we reached out to them, said, hey, we're going to bike across the country. Can we raise money for you guys? And he's like, absolutely.
No.
Yeah. Exactly. It was a pretty easy sell. Yeah. So we spent a year, it would have been a year, meeting and coming up with our...
We decided, I think, officially November, December.
Okay. Yeah. So November, December.
Yeah, so just a little less
When
than
we
a year.
started. Okay.
Gotta get the facts right.
I know, not the
November, December.
It was actually 11 months and 3 days.
Yeah,
But
like-
who's counting?
So yeah, well, that's what we did, and so we all met. Luckily, all of the riders were here, and we met every Sunday to go over route, fundraising strategies for us as the trip, and then while we're on the trip, what we kind of want to do to raise money and awareness for.
How did you
to fight human trafficking?
How'd you raise money while
How
you're
did we
on the
do it?
trip? You're
That's a great-
biking.
True.
Oh my gosh.
Honestly, a lot of it fell on, I mean, everyone had their part in the trip and we kind of ended up falling into our own roles. But I would say to raise money, it was all about social media and trying to get, I mean, you have to get eyes on you. It's marketing at that point. So what can we do to show people what we're doing and why we're doing it and how they can help? And so Evan, my younger brother, he's phenomenal at marketing. He's phenomenal at video, all that stuff. So he kind of took lead on the structure of our videos each day, but we filmed, all of us would film content throughout the day with our phones while we're biking, just small snapshots of the day. And then Evan would compile them into a short, I think they were 1 minute, minute 30 videos of just a recap on the day. And then at the end, we would have do something that does something, whether you're, what do we say? Whether you're a firefighter fighting fires or biking across America, do something that does something, like turn the thing that you do into something that can actually impact. So that was kind of our tagline for the whole trip. And honestly, it was kind of tough initially just because we had no rhythm or groove, or we didn't know what a day looked like. And yeah.
None of us were bikers before the trip, so that also played a part into it.
You may have had a couple sore butts.
It's like, yes, I think at least me, my longest ride, like we tried to do a weekly long ride, and I think the longest one I did was 35 miles before we left, and day one was 86 miles. So we just blew like all of our rides, and none of us were biking every day before the trip. So getting up every day to bike, that was the task.
That must have been painful.
It was a little bit.
I mean, a lot of people did talk about like day 3 was going to be the hardest day. And you're like, I don't know, maybe a day 5. But we didn't really have a plan for, it was hard to plan. You didn't know how you're going to feel after 80 miles because we'd never done that. And because, I mean, when you're at home working and stuff, like 80 miles takes a long time. It's like you either take a whole Saturday to bike those 80 miles or you're just going to do like 3-hour rides and hit 30 or 40 miles. And that's kind of what we ended up doing before the bike trip. We were like, we'll figure it out as we go, and we'll probably get in shape as we go. And we'd heard that a lot.
Fire, ready, aim.
Yep.
Exactly. I mean, that was pretty much the entire trip. Was that order? But we learned real quick. Day 3 was terrible, just because we had biked 80 miles consecutively for those 3 days, 80 plus miles, I think, and then our rest day was a 30-mile bike ride, which to us was like, wow, we're only doing 30 miles, but a week ago, 30 miles was our max effort. Like it was totally, it was just a whirlwind of crazy. And on top of biking and being tired, so rewind, structure of the trip. We had 6 riders. My parents, I somehow convinced them to drive my truck and pull a trailer 4,000 miles across the country and host 6 hungry people all the time. And they said yes. So my parents were driving my pickup, pulling a camper
long was
trailer.
This trip?
53 days.
It took a little bit, plus a little bit on each end, but 53 days of actual
53 days of biking. Yeah.
But overall, you were gone for about 60 days.
Yep.
Yeah, probably.
I would have been around
2 months.
Yep. 2 months of being gone and figuring it out. And we started in Florence, Oregon, just west of Eugene, and we ended in Yorktown, Virginia. So a lot of different 10 different states. And anyways, so that was the structure. And then we had a kid from Switzerland. His name's Kevin, and we asked him if he'd be willing to film kind of a documentary on this trip.
Okay.
Honestly, it was like Jesus, the fact that we got him to be a part of it. The fact that your parents were a part of it, and then him, we were kind of like, oh, he actually wants to give up 2 months of his life. And
He lives in Switzerland.
yeah, from Switzerland. He's married. He's like, I'm willing to give up 2 months, fundraise to get myself over there so you guys don't have to pay for me and just be there to film. I was like, oh, okay, there's something God wants to do with this if that's happening. So
amazing. We didn't really know what that would look like day to day. But we started to figure it out real quick. We could not have done this trip, especially with the time frame that we had. 53. We had exactly 53 days to finish this trip because of one of the kids' work schedules. He had that time.
Yeah, go to work.
And we were supposed to start on July 15th. We had to start on July 1st because we could kind of leverage the 4th of July weekend to get more days off.
Yeah.
So that we had more time. So anyways, we had started July 1st. We had initially 4,000 miles that we had to go from one side to the other. And yeah, we realized real quick we could not have done it without my parents pulling the trailer. They did all the food at camp. They went to all the grocery stores. We literally just had to bike.
Nice.
Nice, dude.
That was good. Do you need a towel?
That shirt's,
It's worth thick
the shirt's
sweatshirts.
already seen its better days. We'll get a different one.
And then Kevin drove my younger brother's like Honda Civic, and he was our like main guy all day. So he was with us pretty much the whole day. So if we had flat tires, he could pull over. We were carrying most of the stuff that we needed, and we'd probably see him every hour maybe of biking, couple hours. But it all worked so well. And then to say all that back to how we got all the messages out was everyone was filming, everyone was posting, and then Evan was editing. Asta wrote a recap on every day. So all of our captions were Asta writing them out. And so when you look back, we have such a rad, like you can go back and see a specific day and remember exactly what happened that day.
Wow.
Like just documented really, really well.
You're doing the same thing over and over and over every day. You get up, you bike, you have your routine of like, oh, I'm making oatmeal in the morning. And then we do like, you're fixing the bikes and getting everything ready. So it's very much mundane of like you're in a routine. So thinking back and remembering specific days is hard because it just kind of blurs together. Yeah. You're really tired, all the things. So it's really fun that we have good documentation of it.
That's actually a miracle.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's super rad.
It was awesome, man. And then to raise awareness of, because a lot of people ask like on our social media platforms, like how is biking changing, like stopping trafficking at all? It's like, well, you're asking a question about it now. Like the fact that you just brought up trafficking means that what we're doing is working. Because it wasn't a topic of conversation. And we had a lot of people that we came across on the trip that were like, they didn't even think trafficking was real. They genuinely were like, that's not a problem. If it was, we would be doing something about it. And I was like, that's the problem. No one knows. And then it is so insanely terrible that you want to believe it doesn't happen. It's really easy to live not knowing because it's a lot more comfortable. Once you realize like what's happening, you just genuinely feel obligated to try to change it because it's so bad. So, and then you ran into people that were obviously fully on board with what you were doing. We had so many people, especially in the Midwest, that were just incredibly generous. Loved what we were doing. I mean, when you're in the Midwest, in the middle of Nebraska,
the Nebraska people are almost, honestly, like, I have not met a bad one.
No. They're amazing.
So wild.
I loved it. Nebraska was the worst state to ride.
We hit like genuinely the worst of everything. We decided instead of going further south, we were like, okay, in the middle of the trip, we decided to go through Nebraska just because we're like, we need to make it in time. And so we're like, okay, we'll cut Nebraska. It'll be great. We'll get like a tailwind the whole time. It'll be awesome. We'll just be able to cruise through Nebraska. It was the worst. We hit a huge heat wave in Nebraska that they never have. And it's super humid there. There's a headwind the entire time. The roads had these like bumps in it. Genuinely everything about Nebraska was wanting us to hate it. Like if you asked about biking, that was the worst place to bike, but all the people we met were incredible. Like everyone there made it so we couldn't actually hate the state, if that makes sense.
Something about those people.
Yeah.
Every person from Nebraska has been amazing to me.
Yeah. Oh, it was like the best. They brought us in and made us feel so at home in every single town we went to. We got on the radio at one point because one lady at the gas station is like, oh, my brother works for the radio. You guys should just go get on there. So we did. And,
so how would people know? Did you have signs? Did you have shirts?
That was something that I think if we were going to do it again, we probably would have changed. So we called ourselves Bike Against Traffic is what was the name of technically, right? Team Bat.
Yeah, Team Bat.
Team Bat, Bike Against Traffic. Probably should have put a K on the end of traffic because we just put TRAFFIC. So it's like cars.
Yeah.
We just thought it was a good play on words, like we're biking against traffic. People genuinely thought we were biking against cars. Like we didn't want people.
So you're environmentalists.
Yeah, apparently.
Yeah, that would
There's
be.
a decent amount of people that thought that.
Yeah.
But the other thing was in like the Midwest, if you go to like a small town Nebraska, we're in the middle of nowhere, and having 6 bikers in like tight shorts, like tights and clippy shoes walking into a gas station looks like we've been on the road forever. People are going to ask questions. Like a lot of people are like, what are you guys doing?
You're clicking through a gas station.
Yeah. So we had these like old farmers. Like, well, there's this one guy. He was like this bigger old farmer. He had like overalls on, a massive truck, and he was just kind of like, what are you guys doing here? And after we talked to him, he at first was like very much on guard of like, who do you guys think you are? But then once we talked to him, he was like, well, I can't miss the opportunity to give to something like this. So he gave us like,
give us a couple $100.
yeah, a couple $100. He's like, buy yourself a nice dinner or something like that. And he was like, I just want you guys to, feel yourself. So it was pretty cool. We're kind of a walking billboard in the way that people just always ask questions like, what are you doing?
Even without wearing something that said what we were doing, we definitely had a lot of conversations. And then our camper, eventually, I think halfway through the trip, we had a big like tarp on the back that said bike against traffic. But I think, all that, like hindsight, we probably should have put a K on there so people were...
Or an ing.
Yeah, bike against trafficking. There's bikers against trafficking, and they're more like Harley riders against trafficking.
Okay, yeah.
So we were just trying to steer clear of things that were already out there, and anyways, it worked because it was a conversation starter for sure. And so
some people got it. Like there's people who got it and then people who didn't. So it worked out.
Yeah. Totally. But yeah, it was long. We were wondering when the humidity would come and then when accents would change, and it just kind of, those were abrupt. It was like no humidity, full humidity, no accent, and then you cross a bridge, and then all of a sudden they have the deepest Southern accent ever.
How do people in the North have Southern accents?
It was, so we're technically, I had to look up a map. I think I looked up a map halfway through. I was like, where does the South technically start?
Yeah.
And it's like, because we went through Kentucky. So we went through like Illinois, and then we went straight into, Kentucky was right after that, right? I think that's right. Because we crossed a bridge.
Yeah.
The Ohio River or something. I don't know. The states are a blur.
Kentucky,
but I think that's
Tennessee.
No, it was Missouri.
Missouri's before Illinois.
Yeah, it goes Missouri, and then we just went through the tip of Illinois, and then I think went right into Kentucky.
Oh, that's right, we did.
Yeah.
We just hit the little bit of it.
And literally
South of
the
Indiana.
bridge between Illinois and Kentucky is where the accent started. And something that somebody told us like early on, I think it was in Idaho, there was a biker who had just come from the east side and he was coming to the west. And so we're on the beginning of our trip. He's kind of towards the end.
Yeah.
He's like, just watch out for the dogs in Kentucky. And we're like, the dogs in Kentucky? He's like, yeah, you'll get chased by dogs all through Kentucky. We're like, oh, that's not fun. That's kind of terrible. Second to last state on the trip. And then we're now like, what do we do about the dogs? So we keep biking. We go through Nebraska. A guy at a bike shop in Nebraska says, oh, watch out for the dogs in Kentucky. And so this became a thing. Many people were telling us,
So many people.
watch out for the dogs in Kentucky.
But on like day 2, I think, day 1 or 2, one of the 2 days, there were German Shepherds that almost took us out. They actually like bit one of the guys. So in Oregon, we experienced dogs, and we were like, okay, we kind of have a grid of like what it's like for dogs to just come running at you, and it is terrifying because in that moment we're on like a narrow road on the side, and if you swerve, you're in traffic. So your reaction is to swerve anyways. It's slightly terrifying when dogs come at you. You're like, oh no. So but you can keep going with that.
So yeah, once we hit Kentucky, we crossed the bridge. I think we were about a quarter mile into Kentucky, and dogs would chase you. We got chased a lot in Kentucky.
Any reason why Kentucky is famous for their dogs?
I think a lot of it had to do with the route we were on. You're kind of on back roads, and so there's a lot of like homestead houses. They don't have fenced in dogs, and they just have a lot of dogs.
Yeah.
So just happened to be like,
It's kind of like cats here.
Yeah.
People let their cats roam. People let their dogs roam.
people let their cats.
Yeah, I feel like there's always cats in backyards. Am I wrong about that?
Yeah, watch out in California. There's cats that'll
They
chase
don't
you.
do anything.
roam.
They
just
roam. The roaming cats. You haven't heard about the California roaming cats?
I don't know.
But anyways, it was a really great trip. It was long, but it was so good. So yeah, we averaged about 80 miles a day. Took us 53 days to get from one side to the other, and then I think driving back was honestly worse than hiking across.
Really?
Yeah, it was just like
Our bodies, I think that was something we all underestimated is yes, you're like, oh, I'm going to be fatigued from this. And you kind of get like, it's pretty fun the first half of the trip. You're like, I'm getting stronger. I feel like I can climb mountains and all the things.
Yep.
Like you felt yourself getting stronger. Halfway through, just doing that over and over, your muscles start to be so depleted. And we're all eating so much, you just can't actually replenish your muscles enough to keep them growing. So about halfway through, it got way harder because all of a sudden, I felt like our bodies were kind of regressing a little bit, where once we got to the East Coast, the rolling hills, I was like, we just went through the Rockies. Like, we should be fine on these rolling hills. And they were so hard because our muscles were just not what they should be. They're just so depleted. So I was going to say, at the end of the trip, we were all so depleted and just dead. I feel like for weeks, almost months, all of us were like, we don't want to do anything. Like,
I bet.
Just getting back. It was kind of culture shock coming back to real life of, how do we just were doing this thing and all we were doing was trying to like tell people about human trafficking and do whatever we can to help fight human trafficking. And then all of a sudden we were back in real life trying to do the day-to-day things.
How was that? How was that transition?
Yeah, it was
hard,
way harder than I thought. One, physically, we were just like so drained. So it was kind
Physically,
of hard.
the
You're just like
exhaustion.
super
Yeah.
out of it. But then also just trying to find like a drive of how does this like medial, like the tasks that we're doing day to day, I'm like, how is that actually doing anything to help? I don't know. I felt like it was really hard. Do you
Yeah,
have
I think
something?
there was on the bike trip. I think Evan says this pretty well. Is like you knew what you were supposed to do every day, and there was something
Right.
rad about that. Like,
Yeah.
you wake up and you bike, and here's the destination, and here's our mileage, here's literally all the elevation climb. We knew what we were doing every day, so it took the like guesswork of, and maybe that's just because a lot of us start our own things, like business wise.
Yeah.
There's a lot of unknown.
Running
in
your
that.
own business is
man.
different.
It's just it's like the map kind of shows up as you take the step when you're running your own business, and this felt very much like we had planned it enough to where we knew exactly what we were going to do. Obviously, there's things that change, and there were wrecks that slowed us down, and not that that's a bad thing. She wrecked in Missouri pretty hard.
Really?
Yeah, it was pretty good.
Superman into the road. It's
Yeah.
pretty great.
So how bad? Tell us about this.
It wasn't as bad as you're making it seem. Honestly,
got
it
it
was
on film.
Jesus that, like, there's so many moments looking back on the trip. We had a whole team of people praying for us, I feel like,
Yeah.
all over the states. Because I'm from North Dakota, he's from Montana, two of the people were from Minnesota, one was from Texas. So we had people genuinely across the map, and then we all live here. So
many people.
all over praying for us, which is really cool. And you could feel that. There was so many miracles on the trip of how Jesus was protecting us, like storms, for instance. There was like, we have screenshots of the storms on the radar, how these massive storms, in the Midwest,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
crazy
Tornadoes
storms
and everything.
that should have hit us, and all of a sudden, like, these huge storms coming from us, and then they disperse around us and then go back together. That happened probably 4 times, I think, that we have
Wow.
like physical documentation of it, which is crazy. There's just like so many miracles and testimonies like that. But then same with this, we were on a really busy road, and there was like cars just ripping past us, and what's that called? Like the side that side that we were on became nothing.
Oh, the shoulder.
Shoulder,
Yeah, the
thank you.
shoulder.
I was like, what's that word? Shoulder. The shoulder turned into rubble, and so we had to like jump on the road at this one point, but there was a huge bump, divot, and I
There's
just
like a gap. There's like an inch gap in between the shoulder of the road and the road, and our tires are little. So
Yeah,
unless
yeah.
you jump your bike over it, your tire will sit
Right
into
in
that
it,
groove.
yeah.
And that's exactly what it did.
Yeah, I just didn't jump far enough. So then my tire got stuck in the groove, and I flew into the road, but I flew like into the middle of the lane and just like Superman'd in it. Which, praise the Lord, there's no cars.
No
Like there's
cars,
a video
yeah.
of it, and there's like cars going past, and then all of a sudden there was no cars. And
That
Justin
is
was right behind me,
horrifying.
and he jumped off his bike and like grabbed me out of the road because I was just in shock. I mean, it wasn't, honestly, I didn't get that hurt in the grand scheme of things, but he jumped and like grabbed me out of the road because I was just like stunned. So it ended up being totally okay, but it was crazy of the things that happened.
No car.
No, I was like, there was a lot of things that could have gone very
Yeah.
wrong, and it was okay. So we had a lot of angels around us, but I don't know why you brought that.
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, day to day, just like
the
knowing what
miracles
we were
around
doing.
you guys. It kept getting so many miracles.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that was I think it was probably the most I've like seen the prayers actively protecting us. Like,
Yeah.
that was something we didn't really know, or at least I kind of didn't think about before the trip, was how many situations you're going to be in where something could potentially go wrong.
Yeah.
And yeah, you're just biking on the side of the road, but cars are driving by you all day. It was like, that became the biggest stress point, was does this road have a big enough shoulder? And does it have rumble strips between us and them? Rumble strips were awesome unless they were in the middle of the road on a 2-lane road. So if it's a 2-lane road and the shoulder's small and there's a rumble strip, cars don't want to go over to the other side. So they'll ride very close to you. So you'll be within a foot of a car going 65 or 70 miles an hour. And it's like if you make a wrong move or if they make a wrong move, we get toasted. So
I just realized your goal, like during the day, we didn't realize how stressful that would be, but your goal in the day, you're like, I'm just trying to not get hit by a car or die. Like there's so many things that is trying to harm bikers, I would say, on the road. Even roadkill. There is so much roadkill and so many things in the shoulders that you're constantly swerving around. So
some of the stats.
Oh my gosh, the amount of roadkill we saw. I don't remember. I should try and look it up.
We saw 900 and something animals dead on the side of the road.
You count it.
It was, we were like, we got to count this. This is a lot.
We have stats. The other thing that Evan started doing at the very beginning, day one, he's like, I'm going to count American flags, see how many there are. It became such a task. He was like, this is the worst. I don't remember. I want to say there's over 1,000 American flags to the trip.
That's good.
Yeah, it was awesome. It just became really hard to count all of them because there were so many, which is great. But yeah, roadkill, that was one thing that smelled so much worse than I expected. A lot of bridges. It was super fun, but it was wild. It was wild how much the trip, I would say, just doing that changed our lives, but then also diving deeper into like fighting for human trafficking, how that also changed our lives. Like there's kind of two sides of it. I don't know. We learned a lot from biking and being on the roads and all the things, which is fun, but then also partnering with this organization and learning more about human trafficking, that also I feel like opened our eyes to a lot too.
No, for sure.
Now imagine when you're on your bike all day long and you're like, well, the reason we're doing this is for trafficking. You're thinking about it and you're thinking about way more than most people would be in their day, or you are in your normal day. So amazing. What did you, like, what were some of the ahas? Because now you're taking this mental deep dive, just meditating on what it is about. What were the ahas?
That's a really good question. The aha moments for me, I mean, I think it just comes down to, I guess for me, the aha moment would be the reality settling in that this is real. Like, that what actually happens is real. And we were in connection with the guy who runs Unseen, and he would send us stats about what was going on or situations that were going on that we could pray for or bike for or anything. And it's just like, currently, it's unbelievable how many children are in trafficking and being abused every day. It's mind-blowing. And we're like living this life. It's, even on the trip, we're just biking through life right now. It's like so...
Child slaves, 40 million.
40 million child slaves worldwide.
That's crazy.
Right now. That means that while we're comfortably sitting on our couch...
That's the population of California.
That's insane.
Wow.
It's insane. It's just like...
insane.
So I think for a lot of people, and this is kind of where my brain goes, it's super overwhelming, which makes you want to check out. Makes you want to not do anything. But it's like, we were hearing stories that were like, one kid can get rescued today. That's huge. If our whole trip would have done one thing for one kid, it's 100% worth it. We'd do it over and over and over again. But for me, I think the aha moment was probably, I don't know specifically what it was, that when we were biking, there was, what was that movie that came out?
Oh, the Sound of Freedom?
Sound of Freedom came out right when we were, it was like crazy timing.
During the trip, which was wild.
We didn't even know.
Oh, that would be fun.
He's like a Mr. Grabber. But Sound of Freedom came out right when we were biking. So when we were in Wyoming, we all went and watched it and kind of promoted the movie, and it was great. So a lot of people were aware of like what was going on just even through that movie. So we got to but kind of ride the wave of that as well, which was super helpful. Yeah. But I think there was just an overwhelming amount of information coming out about things that are happening, especially overseas, but here for sure, there are tons here. Like,
I think sorry, were you going to say something else?
You're good.
One revelation I had was overseas, like the information that we were hearing of, obviously a lot of people, it's easier for Americans to grasp that stuff is happening far away. Yeah. And so I was like, everyone's kind of known that. Like, stuff is happening overseas. But I think we learned a lot more of how bad it is and how much is really happening. That was a huge reality that set in, and just kind of pondering stories of, oh, this is insane. This is worse than I ever thought it could ever be. was crazy. But then also hearing more and learning more about what actually is happening in America too. You're like, oh, this is also worse than I ever thought it could be. Like, I knew there was a lot of trafficking in America, but hearing stories of like how brutal it is was crazy. So yeah, I was like, I don't know where it's going with them.
I think here in America, it's not necessarily easier to hide, but it's just so easy to distract yourself with something else and not actually think about what's happening. And it honestly, it is easy to hide what's actually happening because there's, we're not a third world nation. So people don't think of America as being a trafficking hub, but it's unbelievable how many people are trafficked. So I would say it was just kind of little moments throughout the trip for me that highlighted the reality of what's actually going on. And as much as it feels hopeless, it's also like, dude, just do something. Something. You know, partner with people that are also doing it so you can come together and
So when you came home, what was that transition like? So you're sore, you're exhausted, you're mentally fatigued, you're probably emotionally pretty wiped as well. And now you're going to do a tattoo for a guy who's like really upset about, well, it's not exactly how I like it.
Right. So I mean, there's totally that element of like, this doesn't matter, you know? And I mean, it's kind of, I think that was the hard part. Coming back to reality is the problem feels a lot smaller than what you were just biking for, but there's still those opportunities, even within those little moments of that thing that, I don't know how to say this, but can feel really significant for that person. You know what I mean? So like, and yes, we brought a lot of information. It's fun. I get to sit with people all day long and tattoo them, and they're stuck with me. So we get to talk about stuff. Yep. And so, especially after the bike trip, it was like, oh, you just got back from that bike trip. Why'd you do that? We got to talk a lot about trafficking. Yeah. And then it's unbelievable how many connections you will get through sitting with somebody and telling them what you just did and how much they actually know about what you just did.
Right. Yeah.
Through a different source, and then you can connect. So I think there was a lot of networking that happened for me, at least when I got back, which is great. Yeah. But totally that aspect of like, this doesn't matter. I think I just need to drop everything and go and do something else. But then I think my conversation with the Lord a lot was like, how do we apply this to our normal life, or what should normal life actually look like for us? And it came back to that, do something that does something, like turn every day into something that can impact and influence in a positive way, and be intentional about that. Like when you go into a small situation with that mindset, your conversations change. He's sleepy.
Yes, I'm gonna just stand up so I'm gonna fall asleep.
But yeah, it's kind of like wake up in the morning and knowing I want to actually make an impact in a positive way. Your conversations change. They're actually more intentional. You're actually asking intentional questions now when you're talking with somebody like, hey, what's your dream? What's your passion? What do you want to see change? So for me, I have a cool job where I can actually do that. I talk to a lot of people. So, and we get to draw stuff that's most of the time important for them. So, or important to them. So, that's an automatic gateway or doorway into something that's more intimate in their life that either I can speak into or we can talk about. And so for me, I think outside of being completely tired and probably, I wouldn't say malnourished, but eating the wrong things, we just ate calories. That's what we needed, like so many calories.
So wrong things, what were we eating on a daily basis?
Oh my days.
We never ate
bagels
before the trip, like candy bars.
No candy.
At a gas station, when you could get a candy bar.
You get candy bar, and once you hit the Midwest, there were Casey's gas stations. Have you heard of those?
No.
Oh, they're amazing. They're the best gas stations out there. There's a couple things I would tell somebody now if they were going to bike across the country, especially going from west to east. It would be get a what are they called? The cards. Like
gas station, like
a rewards card.
Oh, get a rewards card.
Get a rewards card for certain gas stations because they will pay back huge. Because by the end of the trip, you're stopping at so many gas stations that you're a gas station regular. And Casey's kind of has everything. They have breakfast pizza, which is as unhealthy as it sounds. And it tastes good. Yeah, it tastes great. And there's a ton of calories. So it's energy for us. But I think,
Sorry, we're just eating so many calories. So you'd walk into a gas station and you're like, everything looks amazing because you're starving, you're tired. So I've never walked into a gas station and been like, I'm going to get some food here until the trip. But you're like, this is the holy grail. There weren't gas stations on the West Coast. So it wasn't until like we really hit the Midwest. And then every so often, we're like, cool, we're going to just make it to this gas station, then we could take a break.
You're craving gas station food?
Yeah, so we were just like, oh, I can get a little pick-me-up at the gas station. This will be great. It was so funny. But yeah. Yeah, it was
That was probably the
hilarious.
unhealthy part
Yeah.
of our trip, I would say.
Yeah.
And probably what I would do differently is just be more intentional about eating healthier foods. But it's,
Did you have some side effects from that food?
I would say once I got back, yeah, like you have like sugar and caffeine withdrawals big time because you're just trying to keep that going, and you can't sustain that in a normal.
Right.
Especially, I sit all day, so
Yeah.
if I'm trying to, I think we're eating, we were burning almost 5,000 calories a day biking. So trying to maintain 5,000 calories a day, that's a lot of food. So we're
Yeah.
eating high calorie dense foods while we're biking, and the only place you can really get them if there's no grocery store is a gas station. So, or a rest stop or whatever. So yeah, I would say that was the other thing coming back that kind of made it a little harder to adjust to normal life, especially for me. It was just like, what in the heck? No energy. Your heart is used to beating at like 90 beats per minute all day long.
Yeah.
And then I go sit as still as I can, and it's like in the 40s or something.
Can't move.
Yeah. And your body's like, I think you just need to sleep. I think I need to sleep. So it was just weird. I wish, looking back, I would have had more energy coming back, because mentally you're still carrying that like torch of like, we want to see trafficking end. And we just did that for 53 days. And you're battling like the highs and lows of social media things. And yeah, like when you...
And that was what year?
2023.
Okay, so
summer of 23.
Year and a half ago.
Yep.
Okay.
So all that to say, I think the first time is always the hardest time. If we were to do it again, we'd do things a little differently. But overall, I think we raised right around $60,000.
Really?
Yeah. To go, yeah.
Wow.
For the trip.
In 60 days.
Yeah, and that was, we started fundraising before the trip, just to get people on board. And I think a lot of people, especially bigger businesses, companies, like, because Than, the guy at Unseen, he's like, pursue big companies, like big ticket stuff, so that they can jump on board. And we did, but there's no proof that we could do what we were going to do. So to companies that are like, come back next year when you show us that you can do this kind of thing, which I get it totally. But I think we got $60,000 of donations from small donations.
That's
like,
great.
From like mostly individuals.
It was like 500 people.
Yeah.
So it was amazing.
Amazing.
So amazing. But yeah, I think that coming back for me, that's kind of what that felt like. It was brutal.
Yeah.
And so you want to do it again?
It's hard now that we have a little dude in like 53 days. I mean, if they were with us, then yeah, I would maybe. I don't know if I would go the same route. I would maybe, if I was. So Rails to Trails is an organization that is creating all of the old railroad tracks into trails, and they are connecting coast to coast.
Oh, right, yeah.
I would do that. You're off the roads, and so the trail, the route we went on was called the Trans America Bike Route, and it was developed in like the 70s as the first transcontinental bike route in the U.S. Back then, the roads that you were on, they weren't traveled very much. There weren't a lot of cars, so it was a pretty good road to bike on. Or for the most part, they were.
Right.
Now, especially through like Montana and Colorado, which we didn't go through Colorado because it was just a wild. From what we had heard, everyone's like, don't go through Colorado. It's just busy. People are crazy, and they don't like cyclists.
So go through like the more touristy towns. So it's like through
Yeah.
Breckenridge and Vale and stuff. And in the summer, it's just hectic there. And you're on these tiny, narrow roads without... Anyways, everyone's like, it's just a recipe for disaster. Probably gorgeous back in the 70s.
And yeah,
but now it was kind of unrealistic. So that's why we went to Nebraska.
Yeah, so I guess in Montana, in Ennis, Montana, we changed our route. So originally we were supposed to go down through Wyoming, through Colorado, and then out Oklahoma into Kentucky. I think that's right. Or maybe there was still Illinois even a little bit.
Yeah.
Oklahoma, Missouri, Kentucky, it doesn't matter. We switched. We didn't do Colorado.
There we go.
Yeah, so we switched and didn't do Colorado. We didn't drop down. We went straight through Wyoming and straight through Nebraska. And then, so it took that whole section out. But all that to say, the roads now are way busier. Yeah. And like way busier. And they're still the same size roads as they have been for a long time. So there are no shoulders. There are roads that if I was driving it and I saw cyclists on it, I would be like, why are there bikers on this road?
What are you thinking?
Yeah.
Like, it is not... I would never go bike those roads just for a day ride. It's just the only way to get across. And so now the Rails to Trails thing feels way more appealing to just be off of the road. You're on kind of a gravel, like a granite kind of hard pack. So it'd be a little bit different bike. But I think it would be more enjoyable for sure. Or do the Continental Divide would be the other one.
That's what I was going to say. I think I'm not opposed to, I'm thankful we did it, to say we did it. I'm like, this is awesome. I probably wouldn't do the same route again, but I would totally do another bike ride to do something like this. I'm like, it was awesome. Just choosing a better route for sure. Yeah. A good description of the road would be, you know, driving from here to Lassen.
Yeah.
Like that kind of road. Yep. It's basically that is a lot of what you are on. And so there's not really much a shoulder. There's a lot of curves you can't see. So biking on it, like wouldn't feel safe biking that road necessarily. And that's kind of where you ended up. We ended up in some of the most beautiful places too. But yeah, there was a lot of that. So I don't know. Hard to say that we would do the same route again.
I also think if I was going to do it again, to maybe just have fewer riders. So with 6 riders, that's a lot of people for one car to pass.
Right.
When you're in a line. And there were days we had to decide, like, are we going to ride in a group or are we going to split up into 2? And so cars can pass and then pass, and just kind of depended on the road. But it was a lot of people to navigate. And when you're in a pack of 6 and there's something on the shoulder you're trying to avoid, it's really hard for the last 2 people to avoid that. You know, it's quick. And you do draft, so you have your first person and they're breaking the wind for the rest of the people, and that's a real thing, by the way. But you have to ride really close to each other. So you are probably 5 inches from the back tire of the next person. And when they move, you really don't. So you run over stuff.
I was gonna say, I became a pro at drafting Justin because I was like, well, he's bigger than me. I can just ride. He'll block the wind for me. It'll be great. And I became nicknamed the bulldozer because I ended up running over everything because I was like right behind him and didn't have enough time to move out of the way.
How'd your wheels do? Did they get warped at all?
No.
Honestly,
she's really light.
I had we struggled with pop tires at the beginning a ton. That's true. I didn't get that many. So I'm like, I probably got the least amount of pop tires, I think.
I think the total pop tire change tube stuff was 80. We had over 80 flat tires. So
that makes sense.
It takes like at least an hour plus to do that.
Yeah.
So
no, it's like 15 minutes.
Well, that's maybe true. Maybe sometimes it only took like
an hour.
That's probably
we added up, and the amount of time it took for us to change everything, I think ended up being about 13 hours of changing tires. If you add it all of it up.
Wow.
It's about 13 or 14 hours of tire changing.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So it's almost 2 days of riding in tire changing. It was a lot, but we know now. And I think that was another, we could talk all day about like the technical part of biking across the country, things you need, things you don't need. But we learned a lot.
Well, one question, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, we've talked to a couple of people who want to do this trip again for Team Bat, and potentially, I don't know if that's going to happen this year or not, but it would be really sweet if we could get another team to do this because we know so much now that I think it could go so much smoother. Like, we just learned so much on the road, which was great. Yeah. We'd never done any bike trips before. I was like talking to people who've done some like 2-day bike trips. Oh, the amount of people that literally straight told me to my face didn't think I'd be able to do it. I was like,
you biked literally from shore to shore.
Yeah.
We took a seashell.
That's wild.
From one to the other.
Okay.
Yeah. It was pretty crazy. I was like, I honestly, before the trip, I wasn't sure if I could do it either, but we did it, which is crazy. But yeah, I feel like it could just go so much smoother if we got a team to do it again because we learned a lot, which is good.
Yeah. I mean, my one bit of advice for this, taking a big trip or a big endeavor or a big dream, is just like one day at a time. And I tattooed a guy who's a big ultra marathon runner guy, and he told me beforehand, he's like, just do the next mile, break it into miles. Can you do a mile on a bike? And I'm like, yeah, that's easy. Do that, and then do the next one, and then do the next one, and pretty soon you've done 10, and do that 9 times, and your day's done, and then do that. So, but when you think of the whole thing, it feels like it's kind of like fighting human trafficking. I mean, in a lot of ways, you're like, the whole pie is massive. You cannot swallow it. Yeah. And so take little bites and just chip away, and don't be afraid to actually go after it. It's
one child at a time.
One child at a time.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's very true. Yeah.
So now that you've done this form of fundraising and you've thought about, well, that was a lot of work. Have you thought of any alternatives that would be more efficient, less energy to raise money?
Yeah, that's a great question.
The works this year, probably.
Yeah. What's the organization that?
I want to say it's called New Day for Children.
New Day
Oh
for
yeah,
Children.
they were the other people who.
Sweet. They're awesome.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we're going to partner with them and hopefully do more of a bike event for Reading. I don't know what that exactly looks like outside of like having maybe a bike week or a bike day where it's intentional. We're all biking for this thing. We did have an idea to do bike week here in Reading, and each person that's biking logs their miles, and you find donors to donate like $1 a mile that you bike that week. So you log up all your miles. You can have like 10 donors that are all supporting you, and they pay $1 per mile. There's so many.
Because there's like such a big biking community, honestly, here.
Oh, yeah.
With mountain biking more than probably road biking, but both. And there's a lot of kids that are into it too. Like even working at the school, I was like, there's so many kids that are into biking. So if they could go and be like, oh, I'm going to get some people to raise money and support me before I even start and say, hey, what will you contribute to my bike week, whether it's mile by mile or just like for the week or something. I was like, then it gives kids a motivation to bike for something as well, because that's something that any age can do, honestly. Like setting up just a week in town, I was like, anyone can do that, you know?
I'm just thinking right now, we have one of the largest trail systems in the world right here.
Yeah.
You could, and I'd be in on this, do an endurance race
Yeah.
to see how many, because to say you have to hit every trail in Reading.
Yeah.
That'd
Oh
be
man.
cool.
There's, I think, what do they call it? Bigfoot Challenge?
Yeah, so
The Bigfoot Challenge here in Reading has a list of trails. Some are really easy, some are really hard, and you check them off, and every year they
Oh yeah, they give
dish
you
it
little,
out. Yeah,
little
and a lot of
patches.
people try to become the, you do
Yeah.
a Bigfoot Challenge. But so essentially that, but for what we're doing. I think there's Lemurian Bike Race.
Yep.
We'd love to partner with, or even just show up there.
I can connect
as a
you to
booth.
those guys.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
That'd be
Matter of
awesome.
fact, the last person I interviewed was one of the leaders
Oh,
of
really?
it.
No
Yeah.
way.
Yeah, so
That's so rad.
Jesse Eberly
Okay.
and Janae Eberly,
Okay.
they help
Oh, that's awesome.
with that a
That would
lot.
be so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It'd be
that's
fun to
sweet.
get plugged in with them.
I think one thing we realized too on the trip is when you talk to people about this, a lot of people are unaware of the problem, but actually telling them about it, all of a sudden they're like, I can't not do anything. There wasn't many people that we came across that were against what we were doing. You know
Right,
what I
right.
mean? Like once they knew what we were doing, there was a couple people that genuinely didn't believe that human trafficking was a thing. So it was kind of, they're like, that's a conspiracy theory. We had a few people like that. But majority of people
Right.
got behind what you're doing because it's something that no matter what walk of life you're in, what
Yep.
like demographic, what like small town, big town, whatever it was, whoever we encountered, this is something that everyone's like, oh no, this is a terrible evil that we can all get behind trying to end. So that's
Right.
one pretty cool thing. Even doing it in town, we're like, oh, this is pretty easy to get people on board because, yeah, it's something
absolutely.
everyone agrees is evil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that would be local, and you wouldn't have to worry about cars.
Yeah, exactly.
That'd
And
be
it's
great.
enormous.
Yeah,
Like,
it's
an
unbelievable.
enormous-
We have such a rad biking community here.
Yeah.
They do such a good job. Reading Trail Alliance rules.
Yeah.
And they do a great
Yeah.
job.
When I first started mountain biking here, I was like, who's maintaining all this?
Right?
This is insane.
There's so many too.
Especially after like Car Fire, because
Yeah.
they took a ton of trails out. They've done such a good job to bring them back. It's,
and
it's
and you
crazy.
can just go miles and miles and miles, and it's perfectly groomed for you.
Oh, I know. It's almost, exactly. It's almost too good. When you go somewhere else, we went biking in Montana. So I'm from Bozeman originally. We went back there and we're like, oh, mountain biking's going to be amazing. And it was great, but the trails were nothing compared to what we have here.
Yeah.
Like, we are very spoiled
Very.
for the trails.
So
we
yeah,
have
something
here.
like that. Count me in. I would love to.
All right. Yeah.
To do
We're
something
working
like
with
that.
Brandon with New Day.
Okay. Well, yeah.
So
both
yeah,
here
we
next
should
week,
partner with her.
actually.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Let you know.
She brought the two, the husband and wife. I forgot what their names are. Matter of fact, their stuff is on the table there.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I love those guys.
Cool. Yes.
They're awesome.
They're amazing. So sweet. So we're going to partner with them. We meet with them next week to kind of chat
They're my
through what
very
they come
first
up-
podcast, by the way.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. So cool.
Well, not my first my first one in this room.
this, okay.
I used to have a whole studio up there, but now we've moved here, and
like
they were
it.
my first ones to experiment with this spot.
Yeah.
That's
So we did a lot of
Love it.
apologizing because we're going to do this all the time. Three
That's
of
great.
them.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's awesome. That's
awesome.
I love it.
That's
But
awesome.
yes, so that is fundraising. I don't know. That is one of those things where it's the most intimidating thing I've ever
yeah.
tried to do.
Yep.
I can stand in front of a crowd and talk, and that's already hard. But then to ask for money, it's like,
Yeah.
oh gosh, no, I can't. I
Yeah.
can't. I don't know. But I have found if I ask money for this child over there, all of a sudden I get really brave.
Yeah.
And the analogy for me is if I saw a house, what are the likelihood I'm seeing a family eating dinner at a table? Would I just bash in their front window and start grabbing people and throw them in the yard? Probably not.
Right.
But what if I saw the house is on fire? And now out of love, I'm like, I need to get these people out of here.
Right.
Now I can throw them out. So that's my thing. I need to understand, like, what is the fire? Who am I saving? Now I get really brave to do the most insane thing ever.
Right. Absolutely. Once you realize the goal of why you're asking for money. I mean,
but I've been doing some research on fundraising and finding out, okay, what's it take to become a fundraiser? Apparently, it's one of the hardest things in the world to do.
yes.
Wild.
It is so,
Like there's a very small number of people who are good at it.
yeah. Well, we should connect you with Than at Unseen because that is what he does.
I love that.
Unseen fundraisers for nonprofits.
So I need to talk to him and get some coaching from him and help him.
Yeah.
I want to help him do what he's doing,
Yeah.
and I want to get coached. So there's two of us.
It's been fun because we've watched him quite a bit. Like we went to their fundraising event in September to talk a little bit about Bike Against Traffic, and then it was a fundraising event. So he basically brought in a bunch of people that have big, huge businesses and just pitched, this is what we're doing. Here's our impact. Here's what we need. Give if you want, essentially. And people are so, I mean, like they're passionate about saving kids. They do not, you know, once you realize what's actually happening. And he's got 25 organizations that they're partnered with that are boots on the ground, sending stories of what is happening. So it's like, this is what's happening. Here's how much we need for these two kids, like down to that point. But I would say the one thing watching him is like, he's unashamed with how, like his goal. He's just like, this is what it is. Give it if you want. Give it if you like, don't if you don't. But at the end of the day, we need money, and this is how we're going to get it. And there's a lot of people that want to partner with that. They want to be associated with somebody or something that's actually doing something big. Right. And but I would say, that was a hard part. Like going to people and knowing, I mean, it's vulnerable. You're about to get rejected. That's fine. Yeah. I think initially we were like, here's our goal. This is what we're going to make. And I think our goal was $100,000 is how much we wanted to raise. And talking to Than, he is like dreamer times 1,000. And he's like, $1 million. Your goal's $1 million. And we're like, $1 million. We're going to try to raise $1 million on our first trip. He's like, put it high. And we did. And I think part of that was great because it was like, it gave us hope to basically to strive towards something big. It gives, I mean, if you're going to dream massive. Yeah, go for it. And obviously we didn't even reach our first goal, but it felt awesome because we were actually pursuing something massive. Yeah. And like training yourself to pursue something bigger than what you think is feasible is, I think, the key to changing a lot in this world. So, yeah, I don't know. Than's been a great example for us on how to fundraise and how to set people up to like be passionate about what you're doing and help back you up. So, yeah. Yes, people have no idea the courage it takes somebody to ask for help. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Now, there are, so I take that back. There are some people that are dysfunctional, and they find it very easy. Yeah, it's like, can I have this? These are people who are usually begging, or they're corrupt, or they're con men, and that is another game. And the fear I think everybody has is they are that. Yeah. Right. And getting over that. No, I know. I've seen the kid. I know the kid. I know what needs to be done. And when you can get to that place. Yeah. And knowing the organizations you're helping are truly doing massive work. Yep. I think that's the other thing. Sorry, real quick. The other thing is like vetting organizations that you're actually doing stuff for. That's huge, especially from the donor standpoint. They want to know where their money's going. Yes. And then being really transparent with how that money is going to be broken down and helping them understand why people that are working for your nonprofit have to get paid so we can continue to do this. It's all part of the machine that's trying to fight this. But the main thing I would say is relationship. You just have to like build a relationship with the people you want to work with. Be incredibly authentic and transparent, and don't rush it. You know what I mean? Like because I know if it was a lot of people we talked with, they have a great heart. They want to see kids saved, but they don't just want to give to the next kid biking across America for their own thing, you know? So like for us, it took a lot of like, okay, cool, that's totally fine. But let's stay in relationship with you. so that when we do the next thing, you know that we're actually serious about what we're doing.
Right.
And we didn't force you the first time.
Right.
We didn't push you away the first time, but we'd love to have you be a part of it the next time. So I would say relationship is probably, I mean, you know that. It's your whole line of work.
Yeah, no kidding. I was just going to ask if you've mostly been doing fundraising in Reading, or what do you do?
Here's the crazy thing.
Yeah.
So in 1998, went to Asia, had $2,000 in my pocket. I had a business, a real estate business that was still generating. I kind of turned it off and gave it away. Not, it was like, bye-bye business. So I went with like $2,000. And that $2,000 just kept growing, not by me investing, but like we spent it and then God provided more. And I learned a great habit, and that's like, God, we're out of money. How are we going to do it? And either we created a small business, or someone came along, saw what we're doing, and said, hey, let me help with that. Never asked for money. Yeah. So the bad part about it was I never asked for money. And so for 10 straight years, we did this thing. We rescued over 1,000 kids. We built a school of future leaders. We built a Dream Builder program where they now are doing crazy things that we never, ever imagined. That's so cool. And never asked for money. Yeah. So it's a terrible habit because I don't know how to raise money. Yeah. I just know that when you go in the direction that God's asking you to go, He pays for it. Now, was it easy? Way hard.
Yeah.
So crazy hard. Yeah. But I saw God come through so much. My faith is so confident of even real estate. So we've gone through so many ups and downs, and my confidence like, we're gonna make it. Yeah. So that's one part. But the problem is way bigger than JR and what you're touching. So I don't want to see it just for what I'm a part of. I want to see money available for. Have you heard of the Free Burma Rangers? Kids, okay, I just gave you an amazing night of watching an hour and a half. I'll send you the link.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah,
it's amazing. I got done with it and I just wept because I realized, man, it's not just trafficking. It's all the stuff before the trafficking. Yeah. It's all the stuff that's causing the stuff before. There's enormous problems that evil has just played this wicked game on us. For sure. And they need money. God, help me to raise a lot of money for them. And then the refugees that I've met, and then these homes, and they need new homes. Yeah. And their kids need to go to school, and all that. I mean, it's enormous. I can't just do it on my business. Right. I can't do it on just like what I need. Yeah. I need to actually verbally say, can you give $1 million?
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
I need to be able to say that.
Yeah.
Totally. So would you say that the main goal with your organization, is it to raise money for nonprofits essentially, or what is your plan?
So the heart of it is we really want to like rescue kids. We want that's the focus. Like, all right, we all can agree it needs to happen. Yeah. It's kind of like, let's come to that one point. We all know that has to happen. Well, associated with that, there are a few other problems. It's way more complicated because the devil is not playing fair.
No. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Have you heard about the Burma war? So I'm learning more and more about it because it's become top of mind. Even this last week, like, how did I not know anything about 70 million people just being harassed by evil? How? And nobody knows. Like, I ask most people, they don't know anything about, like me. And so I realized, okay, the problem is huge. We can all agree, let's start out with the kids. And as you discover that, you realize there's a lot of people doing it. And I'm grateful that this family's taking 10 kids, and this family's taking 20 kids, and this family's, but they don't have the resources.
Right.
Yeah.
How we need to get them some more resources. Because you already see, like, wow, you're super good with the little you have. How about we get you a little bit more? Yeah. Right. Or like the Free Burma Rangers, where they have 70 teams going throughout Burma, and when they hear the bombs and the bullets go, they run to it to save the survivors, who might be kids or parents or whoever, but get them into a safe refugee place. And now they're in a foreign place. Right. They have nothing. Well, I think they need to have help too. Yeah. So it's this enormous, enormous problem that I think, how do we get hold of billions? We waste billions on the dumbest things. Like right now we're going through all this government stuff and hearing what they waste billions of dollars on,
I know.
which is insanity that we'd ever think that was a good idea. Like, I know there's people who've got $1 million. Mm-hmm. And we're like, I need this to go to where I know it's going to make a big impact. So I think that's
great.
And we've done enough out there that we've seen when people are bluffing, because they are. So the devil is smart. He's gone in and screwed things up. So there are the fake people. You got to go in and find out, okay, are they real? And when they are real, let's reinforce them with all we've got.
Yeah. No, that's amazing.
That's
I think
awesome.
connecting you with Unseen would be really awesome, because they're kind of along those exact same lines of funding people that are doing stuff. Because like, you can't be boots on the ground in every situation.
No.
So if you can be somebody here or fundraising, getting people together that have money that want to make a change, that is so important.
Right.
It's very necessary, and not a lot of people are doing that. And I think something we found in our fundraising journey was people want to know where their dollars are going. Mm-hmm. And it was kind of a wake up for me, where it's like, oh yeah, you can't just give, somebody donates $2,000. You can't just give $2,000 to the family that it needs it. No. It has to be a structure so that it's actually helping them, not just, you know what I mean? And I think a lot of donors think, this is going directly to this specific family, and this is what has to happen, when in fact you actually need to create a system and a structure that can help that family and so much more. Mm-hmm. So I think for me, that was a big like, oh, it has to be structured very well in order to be impactful and last. Otherwise you're just kind of filtering money, and it's going probably right back into the system of evil.
Right. And it's very clever to get it pulled into the system of evil. Mm-hmm. I mean, there was several times when I first started being involved in this where I wanted to give to things that I saw. You see things on the street, right? You see a kid who's really in bad shape. And then you find out, as you talk to the kid, this person starts hovering around you. Like, who's this guy? Mm-hmm. And you see the kid a little bit like a dog, like shine, like, oh, I'm gonna get hit. Like, all right, what's going on here? And then you find out this kid's trafficked. He's a beggar now, and they broke his legs so he can't walk. And now he's begging and you can see he's obviously can't walk. And if he doesn't make money from me, then I need to go away. So this guy's kind of shoving me away so he can make money.
Jeez. I know. It's so bad.
And I think the other thing too is it shows up in so many more ways than you realize. Like, you can think of human trafficking as these kids on the street that are forced into like sex situations or something like that. Is kind of what people think. But I'm like, there's actually so many kids who are forced into begging or forced into work or whatever it is. There's so many different. It looks so many different things. Like, it just looks very different.
And trafficking, I'm discovering, oh man, every day I discover, and I wish sometimes you go, can I unsee that? Because that was horrific to think that humanity can do that. So one of the things they're doing right now is kidnapping people, just anybody, and find out what language you speak, and go, all right, your job now is you sit behind this computer and you have to make relationships with people of your language and get access to their bank accounts so you can steal their bank accounts.
Jeez Louise.
And if you don't, they beat you. Yeah. And you're there for 12 hours a day. You're in a prison cell at night, and you come back every night, every day. That's your job.
It's terrible.
And you can't go. It's machine guns around you.
Oh my gosh.
Yep. And they're just kidnapping people and doing that.
It's crazy.
Jeez. Yeah. It's like things like that. How can you make a difference? But it is wild how much money we need backing up this. I think, what did they say with Unseen? The other side, the evil side of it, has a ton of money. Mm-hmm. There is a lot of money backing up their side.
I was like, they have a ton of money and a ton of connections. And that's the other thing that Dan talks about a lot is he's like, the good side. Like, we need to be insanely connected.
Yes.
Because it's so hard and isolating to try and like solve these problems. You hear about things and now all of a sudden this burden's on you, not in a bad way, but you feel the weight of that and you're like, I have to do something, but I'm only one person. So getting connected with so I was like, well, for sure, connect with him, because it's just good to have other people who are fighting alongside you, who are like pouring money into this, because it's true. The other side is so connected and so funded. And he's like,
unethical.
Yes.
So they'll well, we're ethical.
Totally.
We'll raise money the honorable way.
Yeah.
They'll bring fentanyl into the country. They'll traffic somebody. They'll they'll steal, they'll do all the online scamming stuff, they'll do gambling, whatever. They'll just do whatever it takes to corrupt the world.
Yeah,
why?
absolutely.
And my attitude is like, if Jesus is with us, what are we capable of?
Yeah. I was going to say the other side is like, they have all the cheat codes, but we actually have the Lord. And so I guess my question is, what's God's strategy for this? What's his actual intention? Because he's got a plan for it. He actually has a plan to end it, not just take a dent out of it. He wants to end this. So supernatural ways that he shows up, what do those look like? How do we partner with what he's doing? And I think those were big questions we were asking during that trip, was like, he can do whatever he wants. He just wants us to partner with him. So I think it's like intentionally partnering with the goodness of the Lord in fighting this evil. And it's hard, man. It's hard.
So the eyes of the Lord are searching to and fro throughout the world for somebody to strongly support.
Yeah.
What's missed in that story, do you know that story at all? So there's the king of Judah. That's who the prophet tells that to, and says, the eyes of the Lord were searching to and fro throughout the whole world for somebody to strongly support. Basically says, and you were an idiot. Because what God's plan was, just like when the Ethiopians attacked, so the Ethiopians came up and attacked him. I think it was a million man army came up, and he cried out to God, and God wiped out the Ethiopian army and chased him back. They retreated. And then the king of Israel came down to attack the king of Judah, and he, instead of crying to God, he got an idea. He goes, the king up here, I'll have him attack from the north, and then he'll retreat and want to protect his north side and not attack us. And it worked. And what he did is he took all the gold and silver from the temple and paid that king up in the north. And the prophet finished and says, and you are a fool. Because what God actually had planned is he caused the king of Israel to attack you, so you would actually attack him back, and you would have united Israel and Judah back together. And the unfortunate thing is the next king and the next queen after it was Ahab and Jezebel. God was wanting to wipe evil out. And so one of my fears is when I get to heaven, God says, good job. It was really good job. Want to know what I really had planned for you?
Right.
That terrifies me, because I know you think about this problem. God cares, and he's looking for somebody to strongly support.
Right. Yeah. Selflessly support, I think, which is really, really hard to find people to do that. But that's where it's hard. Like when I say, like, go back to your normal life, like, what should normal life look like when you're trying to fight something like this? That's what's so hard, because you wake up tomorrow and you're like, what am I doing today to actually rescue kids or get money to fund this? Or I don't know. I think it just looks like intentionally and being very intentional about hearing the Lord's voice on a day-to-day basis on how to move it forward.
So one of the things I'm doing now, that alarm that I just had, it is an alarm to remind me to stop 3 times in my day. So at 9 o'clock, 12 o'clock, and 3 o'clock, to stop what I'm doing. And I didn't want to interrupt you because we're on a good flow there.
No, you're good.
But to stop and do this. Our Father in heaven, holy is your name. And stop. And just think, what do you tell me about that?
Yeah.
And then your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. And stop and listen to what God says. And then I just basically pray whatever that is that God's put in my mind. And then give us this day our daily bread. We obviously need a fundraise.
Yes.
But just stop and go, all right, what does that look like? And forgive us our offenses as we've got other people who have offended us, as we forgive them. And just stop. And boy, that one's a good one. Because the world is so offended right now.
Yeah.
And then, and lead us not into temptation, and just stop. And one of the things that's been hitting me lately on that was like, I can be tempted to do the good. I have a really good real estate business. I help a few kids. I can pat myself on the back and say, good job.
Right.
Nice job. You helped a lot of people in real estate, and you helped thousands of kids. Good job. God said, lead us not into temptation. Just, his eyes are searching for somebody to strongly support.
Yeah.
What is the great he wants? And then finally, deliver us from evil, and just stop. And we're in a war with this evil.
Oh, yeah.
And it's invisible at times, it's visible at times, but God, deliver us from it. And then finally, the last part is, and give us the endurance to outlast and intimidate hell. So, you know, like if that's what that picture is there for Muhammad Ali. In that fight, he took
that's awesome.
8 rounds of punishment and then said to George in the 9th round, he says, it's a bad time to be tired, George. And just knocks him out.
Dang.
Yeah, but the announcers, when you watch the fight on YouTube, you realize like they thought he's going to be knocked out because he's just getting hammered. And then at the end, George Foreman is swinging like this. And no, not a joke. He's swinging like this.
No.
He can't even control his punches, and then knocks him out. So in the last part, help us to outlast and endure and intimidate hell.
Yeah, that's good.
So I've been doing that. Because I'm like,
That's the
I
prayer.
can't afford right now to go off track.
No, I think it just looks like connecting. I think that's such a huge part. Connect. You're doing a good job of that. I think that's exactly what needs to happen. Connect with people.
Which is the idea of this. And really, the idea was like, I want my kids to see like, no, this is what we really is all about is these little values that we've got to go after.
For sure. It's crazy how one connection can bring you so much closer to your goal.
Oh yeah.
You know, just one thing.
By yourself, it's boring and alone, and I hate going alone because
so true.
I'm pretty tough, and I'll go. I grew up a long distance runner, so I learned to just go and run miles and miles and miles. It's just way easier when you have somebody with you.
Yeah,
it's way easier.
Yeah.
Like I can do it, but
that was another thing on this bike trip where, when you're having an off day with 6 people there, somebody is having an on day, and you can use their motivation, their goal, their energy to pull yourself to that next thing. So it was like you'd have maybe an amazing day like every 4 days, let's say. And that day when it was your amazing day, you're the one kind of leading the team. But when it's not, you're looking to the person that actually is having that day. It was incredibly helpful. If it would have been by yourself, those 4 days would be really hard to find that motivation. Or like for watching Evan climb a hill, he gets to the top and you're at the bottom and you're like, if he can do it, I guess I can do it. We can do this. He did it. I can do this. And it's so good. It's so true. Like connecting, become a team, have one goal.
Yeah.
And
I think it's and if anything, like one of my superpowers is I accelerate things. And I just want to find a way to accelerate these connections. I'm a networker, build relationships with people. And if I can use that to do this, I'm probably not the best to run a school, but I know people who can, and they're awesome at it. Right. I'm probably not the best to like teach a kid in Burmese.
Right.
But I know some people who can. Yeah. And why not get them paid? Yeah. Why not get them so they're not tempted to take a better job somewhere else because, well, this is great. I love what I get to do, but I just don't have enough money for it.
Yep.
Like we got to have resources to get the best, get excellent people helping these kids.
I think that's great. I think,
that's so cool.
There's so many businesses that are just crushing it that want this. They want to be a part of this. And I think it's just that.
That's one thing that which you talking to Than, he could tell you more about this, but there was a couple guys that were younger in Fargo, started a really big business, and they're like, we want to partner with what you're doing. But the way that they came up with this, I can't remember the name of their actual thing, but it's $1 a day. And so they got every one of their employees to give $1 a day. They're like, that's nothing. It's $1 a day for that's less than a cup of coffee a day. And
$1 a month per employee.
But when you have all the employees, that's their goal is, let's get businesses to get their employees to say yes to $1 a day. And now you're getting like a whole team. That's so easy for so many people to just do that. So I'm like, you go to less than a cup of coffee. So I'm like, if you go to a business and get them to give $1 a day, it's like so simple, but it's actually something that they can feel good about too. They're like, that's not much you're asking of me, but I can feel good giving this to you. And then you're getting this whole business around it as well, which is pretty cool. So it's getting a whole business to commit to something. But what were we just talking about? I'm like blanking where I was going with that.
I think.
Yeah.
Right.
Getting people behind it, I guess.
Yeah.
And like there's,
Yeah.
yeah.
And strategies, honestly, for raising money. It's like coming up with
that's
systems
cool.
that make it easy. What do you call it? Frictionless giving. Figuring out ways to just create frictionless giving. That to me is like, yeah, $1 a day, we can do that. That's it's feasible.
Automatic.
And if you can get a ton of people on board, it's incredibly impactful.
And there's these people who are already doing it.
Yeah.
Like if we just could equip the people who are already there,
Yep.
Yeah.
that's already a huge thing. And then
Absolutely.
we'll figure out the extra companies, and, but
Totally.
they actually
Yep.
are already doing it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Which is,
and that's the other thing. Connect with people that are already further along than you. Jump on board with what they're doing and branch off and make it bigger. I mean,
Right.
It's again connecting.
That's another thing with Unseen too. They their goal is to not keep. Their goal is to have a nonprofit graduate their nonprofit essentially.
Okay, yeah.
Their goal is to be like, okay, we've set you up for success. Now you're hiring all these people, and you actually don't need us anymore. And that's kind of like their goal for the people. But that means they're constantly looking for more people on the ground doing stuff,
Right.
which would be really cool as you're finding them too. Like it sounds like you have connections to so many as well that could benefit from this.
Yeah.
So I'm like, just connecting you two would be huge
Yeah.
because
I'm really looking
You
forward to
guys
that.
both have kind of a very similar heart and just like you want to make a difference.
Yeah.
And
Because I love what you get to do in real estate.
Yeah.
It's just like the biking, it takes a lot of energy. And but don't get me wrong, helping people with this investment, it's like for you getting to sit and really connect with people on a tattoo.
Yeah.
For me, I love it. So like Monday, I got a call from a client and her husband passed away like 2 days ago.
Dang.
And I'm like, oh, but to get to be there, to be the one invited into
Yeah.
their home and the kids all there and to reminisce about their dad. And I mean, that's pretty awesome.
It is
And then
awesome.
help them like, all right, here's the plan. If it were me, here's how I would plan the real estate part.
Yeah.
Just so you don't have to think about it. This is I would take this strategy and to be able to take that off their plate, which was awesome. Or a new buyer buying their first house or someone like this last week I had a weird thing. Had a Chinese buyer, so Asia, buy a house on Monday. Oh no, Tuesday. And then South African, which is where we expanded to.
Oh, crazy.
We had then I wrote an offer for a lady, our husband and wife, and they go, this is our first house we ever bought, and it's just such a healing thing. You don't know this, but I was freed from child sex slavery. I'm like, what?
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
And then the fourth one was a mission pastor, and he bought this beautiful house, and it's a Thai themed house, all in the same day.
What the heck? God's like, I'm combining these.
So to be able to do that for all four of them and serve them at that level, but also like, wow, that was weird.
Yeah, it is.
You're like, okay, Jesus, I'm listening.
I love it. That's amazing.
Cool.
There's obviously he's pointing in a direction. Real estate serves people. The biking trade serves some people. I don't know. Just like, okay, God, what all can we do? How
that's
far
great.
can we take this?
Yeah.
Totally.
So now you're teaching right now. Where are you teaching at?
I'm not actually. I am
She's
with
teaching
him.
this little guy.
Yeah,
Okay,
I'm home
no,
right
you
now.
are teaching.
So, yes,
You
I
had a
am in Hawaii, but
full-time
I'm
job with this
full-time
guy.
taking care of this
More
guy.
than a full-time.
Cute guy.
I know. He was born right at the beginning of the school year, so I was like, oh, we'll see. I'll take beginning off, and then it's been good.
Where were
Staying
you
home
working?
for now. I was subbing last year, so
Okay.
at a couple different schools, mostly at Redding Christian and Bethel were like the two I was at most
Nice.
consistently, which was nice. Yeah.
Nice.
A good change of pace. But yeah, home with this.
So
little
now
babe.
are you have any plans to stay home, or do you want to go do some more? What's your thoughts?
Honestly, trying to figure that out, navigate what that looks like. I think right now staying home feels great, and I'll probably do that. I don't know. Yeah, just
You
with
should connect with Anita.
Yeah, I should honestly,
Yeah.
because I think what I could maybe take on is tutoring or something else. I'm like looking on little things I could take on, but it's
She helps me with a lot too.
yeah. I was like, we're kind of building businesses on this side, taking care of him as best as possible, and then we'll
This sounds
see.
a lot. Yeah, you should talk to Anita.
I should honestly. That'd be sweet. I should
Because you got
connect with her.
you got hearts for all these things and are very similar.
Yeah, that's cool. That's awesome. Yeah, that'd be really sweet. So yeah, it's been good.
And the tattoo business,
Yeah.
it's going great. What's the vision for it?
That's a great question. That's a really good question. Initially, I was wanting to kind of expand and open up different shops, but I think recently it's more been geared towards teaching people. Tattooing's awesome. I really love that job. I don't love that I have to sit in a hunched over little position for 8 hours a day. So physically, I don't love it. So if I could more limit how much I'm actually tattooing, kind of spread out my tattoos and do more mentorship programs with artists that are wanting to learn how to tattoo and get into that industry, that's kind of the route I'm going with it a bit more. So right now I have a shop with 5 other artists, and then we're training one kid right now to
And my
join.
3 kids all have the matching tattoo of the Hong Kong stamp.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
oh, that's
for
cool.
Mom.
That's sweet. That's really cool.
Just gonna say, if you know anyone like that wants to learn tattooing,
Okay.
Yeah,
Point
there you
to
go.
Justin,
Just let me
but
know. We'll teach them how to do it.
Nice.
But so that would be with tattooing. And then the other business that we're just starting is called Scully. And Scully builds a mounting system for
Oh, that's right.
European deer and elk.
Yeah. So that's awesome. Tell me about that. That one's exciting.
Yeah, so when you shoot a deer, there's a couple different ways you can mount it. I mean, a lot of guys will get a full mount, which looks like a real deer. But what's becoming more popular is more of a skull mount. So it's just the skull and the antlers. Smaller for your house. Doesn't take up as much space, especially with an elk. I think an elk full mount takes up about a 6x6 cube off your wall. So it's massive.
Yeah.
And then a European mount, which is the skull mount for an elk, is a lot less. So
also affordability. Doing taxidermy like full mount, pretty
Yep.
expensive.
Yep.
European mounts people can do on their own or get done fairly cheaply. So I think that's another reason.
So basically, the company that we started doesn't do the European mounts for you. Like, I wouldn't take the deer skull and turn it into that because it's a process. So a taxidermist would do that, or you could do it yourself. We created the hardware that mounts it to the wall, and the way
That's
we
the one that moves.
Yeah.
And
So it swivels. You can adjust your deer however you want, but I think the main thing we want to market through Scully is attaching the story of the hunt to the mount, and kind of every hunt has a story, and a hunting story never dies.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of keeping those stories alive through generations. I mean, the amount of stories I've heard, hunting stories I've heard from my grandpa.
Yeah.
And now I have hunting stories that I'll tell him. It's just like this really cool way for, and not just father and son, but for me, it would be grandpa, father, son connection time, where you're all pursuing this one thing, and every hunt has a story.
Yeah.
There's not one hunt that doesn't. Even if it's like, oh yeah, the deer was standing right in front of my truck. That's a funny story. So we kind of want to tie the whole story aspect of hunting with the mount connected to the animal. So it's not necessarily, I wouldn't say trophy hunting. I wouldn't say I'm a trophy hunter. I'm like, I love the
Story
experience.
hunter.
Yeah, exactly. And that deer represents a really cool story and a really cool time that I got to go with whoever I was with to find that. And so Scully is kind of, as a business, that's kind of our approach towards hunting and mounting them, and the way. So my dad's an engineer, and so he designed the whole system, and it's really nice. Like, he's phenomenal at what he does. It's probably too nice for what it does.
And he designs robots and stuff.
Oh yeah, he's just like crazy. So doing this whole process with him has been amazing and so fun. But it's really nice. So it'll definitely be the best version on the market for what it does.
Yeah.
And then we just have a big dream for having our own manufacturing facility and doing all of our own machining.
There you
and
go.
Building, and I want to build it to be a pretty big business. There's not a lot of people in that specific market that are kind of pursuing what we are. So it's exciting. It's fun. It's such a weird thing when you talk to people that don't know. They're like, so it's just basically like a fancy coat hanger. I'm like, yeah.
For a skull.
For a skull. And technically.
But they have to see it. Like, when I walked into the studio and I saw those, it looks classy.
Totally. Yes.
Very
Thanks.
classy.
Thank
Like,
you.
sometimes the big head isn't classy.
Right.
Yeah, it's true.
It is a classy look.
Yep. You can make it. It's a lot more doable in your house.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's something more people like to hang in the house. Other things end up in the garage. So like one of our friends, his wife had a rule like you can only hang. Antlers were only in the basement, like not on the first story or the upstairs. But when she saw this, she's like, let's hang it above the fireplace.
Wow.
So I was like,
Okay.
that's a good testament of like, oh yeah, people like the look of it. It just looks nice.
It is a nice
You can
look.
actually add
And we
it
want to
to
be
the
able to
decor.
make it specifically with the deer mount, the back plate on it. So right behind the skull comes off. The back of the back plate right now has a little tag that you can put all the information of like that hunt on it.
Oh, wow.
But eventually we're going to make it to where that back plate's fully customizable. So we'll have laser engraving, all that stuff. Make it way more personal to you. So that's kind of the goal. So I think we order our first 500 next week, and so we'll really start pushing.
500, okay.
500 units.
Going for it.
Yeah.
Who's making them?
We're actually having them outsourced right now, just because machining aluminum is so expensive in the U.S. But that is honestly the goal. I think my initial plan was like, we need to do this in the U.S. I want to do this U.S. It's hunting. Yeah. It's the hunting world. Yeah. So making them in the U.S. is ideal. Any competitors that are doing similar things right now do not make them in the U.S. And I'm finding out why the more we do this. Yeah. And I'm like, holy smokes, this is like, I think it's 4 times more expensive for me to make it in the U.S. right now than it is to outsource it. Yeah. So for prototyping and figuring out kind of our audience and what our what our sales would actually be, it makes more sense to outsource just to get the thing out. Right. With the plan being, we want to have our own building and we want to do all our own machining and manufacturing in the U.S. So our goal long term is U.S. made. And I feel like that's within the next 5 years. We'd probably get there if everything goes the way we're thinking. And we'll have a lot of parts that are made in the U.S. and we'll probably make a lot of them ourselves once we have them tooling. But that's kind of the goal. It's more like baby steps to get where you want to be. So yes, yeah, it's kind of explaining that to people. Oh yeah, I guess I understand that now. But it is. I had no idea the process to make a product. Oh my gosh, all the different problems with it's a couple pieces together. Yeah, and all the potential problems with that. Yeah, all the way down to I think we've had over 15 variations of of the same thing, just trying to figure out what materials to use. So you have this price point in mind. You have to reach a certain margin, and then what materials to use, what process to do it, where you can do that, toughness, does it work well, does it look good? And at the end of the day, if somebody's like, oh yeah, it hangs my deer, but my goodness, the stuff that's behind all of it is like, we want it to work well, look awesome, be affordable, and manufacturable, essentially. Have you ever had any fall off the wall and break it? I 3D printed one. Actually, we 3D printed everything we've made before we've actually had it machined, but I 3D printed one and was like, I'll just hang my deer on that one. And that one broke off and my deer fell right on the ground. But that was just because the 3D print was it was plastic. Oh, yeah. It's plastic. The new one, no. The new ones are awesome. So we made 20 swivel mounts and then 20 fixed, and kind of realized after those that I'm probably only going to have my swivel mounts just because it's way easier to put any kind of animal on it. Then we just designed version 2, and that's what we'll kind of put into production right away. So nice. Yeah. I love that. Fun. I love the idea of producing a product. Oh man, me too. It sounds fun. Yeah. I would love to be able to do something like that. It is so fun. It's so different. With people, I think that's the thing with tattooing. I do a new product every day. So it's like my product is a drawing, but each of those drawings are different every single day, and it's like 2 different drawings every day. This one's like, I have one product that we're honing and getting it to where it's right. Then you launch it, see how it does, see its problems, tweak it, but you're still working on the same product. And so it's been very, very different. It's like sprinting to marathons. It's the difference of... And to be able to do this one little thing at such a high level that everybody would want it, and you could go out and sell it, would be fun. Oh man, so fun. Totally. Especially if it works well. That's the whole thing. We're like, it's a little bit like the biking. Like, you know what you got to do. Yeah, exactly. Which is so nice. I think
what you're doing is way more similar to tattooing. It's different all the time, which is great, but it is very different. Yeah, it would be nice. You're like, oh, consistency. That'd be nice.
And maybe a little bit less emotion. Yeah, actually. Just having that, no, we're just going to get in and do a great job. Yeah, exactly. And then pulling that's another thing, pulling on people to help build your vision and noticing you do this way better than I do this. Can you take this part and run? Yeah. And I love being a visionary and coming up with product ideas and then giving it to my dad, for instance, and he refines the process of making that so it's doable. Evan is the marketing dude, so coming up with storylines and marketing materials so that we can actually tell the story of Scully through what we're doing. And then my older brother does product visualization and websites and way more of the interface, what you're going to actually see when you're on the website and stuff. And he does all that. So we have all the pieces to pull it together. It's a slow tractor that's trying to move. We just got to get it going. So it's fun though. And then trying to tattoo while you're doing it. Right. Yeah. Is that tough? So you got two worlds. One is very different than the other. Is that tough to balance?
Yeah, I think actually I just had a conversation with my dad yesterday where it's like it's really hard to figure out how to divide the time between what's paying you and what you want to have pay you.
Yes.
So like if you want to grow something, it needs time, it needs your energy and stuff put towards it. So then just being way more diligent in scheduling out time that actually is made for this one and then this one, because one will be neglected. Like it's like I have 2 kids. I don't want to mess this up when I have 2 kids.
Right.
But it's like we need to be. How do you be fully present in both of them, or can you be, or how do you equally divide that? And I think in a lot of ways, starting Scully has taken a lot of focus off of tattooing, at least in the marketing side of tattooing, and pursuing like growing that business. So you're saying, what's my goal with that tattoo business? It's really hard to actually have a drive to grow it, I guess, when I know a lot of my energy is over here as well.
Yeah. I can see that. And then you want to rescue kids.
Yeah, no one rescue kids while we're doing it. And if we can build businesses that can
rescue
thrive and then create that's amazing. Like if our goal is to not make money to have money, but to use that to go change lives and do something that does something 100%, that is the goal. And if we can, I think we're my whole family's kind of on that board. We're all kind of in the entrepreneur. We love developing ideas and coming up with concepts and seeing if they work. And all unto a goal of actually impacting the world in a really positive way. So
I would love to have you guys be a part of the Dream Builder Games.
Yes. Oh my gosh, that'd be great.
Because we're going to be doing it in Alaska here in a couple weeks.
Whoa, that's rad.
But then, we'll do another one, and then we're going to try to do one here in Reading.
Okay.
So in Asia, we'll do one in Hong Kong. Okay. Hong Kong. Dang. So you guys go Hong Kong or Alaska or here. Okay. So whatever's easiest.
Alaska in a couple weeks. That's cool.
Like that. That's the one he wants.
And but the Dream Builder Games is a group of people coming together and teaching them how to practically hear from God and have them time to stop and listen to God.
Oh, that's cool.
And have some inspiring things in there to show them like this is kind of like what that looks like. You can do anything. Awesome. They get done hearing from God, writing out notes, throwing it off the people in their group, get some clarity on what they're even thinking, because sometimes you don't even know what you're thinking.
Right.
And then pitch it to everybody.
Cool.
And after they've pitched it to everybody gets kind of vote, and we get to pick the top groups that we think are the best ones. And then from there, everybody gets to pick the team they want to work on.
That's cool.
And then everybody keeps their own dream, of course, like, hey, keep that. That's something that might come back to life. It wasn't picked this time, but maybe down the road.
Yep.
But these are the ones we'll work on this Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then so Saturday is all about building that thing out.
Oh, that's cool.
And then Sunday, they go to church, tell their friends about what they're doing. And then the rest of the day on Sunday, they keep building their presentation. And Sunday night, they pitch to the group what they built with God's help and everything they've progressed. And then every Sunday after that Sunday night, they all come back together, create a YouTube video so the people in Hong Kong, Alaska, Thailand can actually see, and then the game of it is like, well, we need to do better than that.
Yeah, that's sweet. That's cool.
Yeah. And that's the Dream Builder Games.
That's so cool. When did that start?
Well, it started with our first group of kids in the School of Future Leaders.
Oh, sweet.
I gave them a quarter and I said, what is this? And they would go, it's a quarter. I said, no, what is this? And it's a quarter. I said, no, what is this? And finally one kid after about 15 minutes goes, it's an egg? And I think, okay, but how'd you come up with that? I can go across the street and buy an egg. Okay. No, that's not what it is.
Yeah.
He goes, then finally he goes, wait, if I sell that egg for 50 cents, it's 50 cents. I said, okay, you're getting hotter, but that's not it. Yeah. And then they was all arguing with each other, and then one kid goes, it's worth whatever I think it's worth. I said, exactly. Here's your quarter. And I said, now ask God what you should do with this quarter, and tomorrow let's see what it turns into. And a couple of them came back with 50 cents. One kid, he went and borrowed $10. Because he had an idea. He had, I'm going to borrow $10. He bought a whole bunch of flowers, went down to the local bridge where everybody crosses and walks, and tried to sell them. Well, a thief came by, grabbed his flowers, and ran off.
No.
So he lost $10 and learned the value of not going in debt.
The risk of investment, yeah.
And then one kid went out and he bought a piece of paper, and went to this internet shop and printed out all the foods in English that are in the local like stores and vendors, and put it all in English and added a little commission for himself, and went to all the teams that were visiting us from YWAM and said, "Hey, what do you want?" He made $50.
That's amazing.
And the Dream Builder Games was launched at that point. And so that was just part of the school Future Leaders that we did. And now it's morphed to where churches have said, could you do it with us too?
Yeah.
And so like, yeah, let's do it.
Wow, that's rad. That's so cool. Comes back with $50. That's amazing. It's cool to see kids that they have it in there. You just need to set up a platform.
Well, they created thousands of dollars.
That's crazy.
Thousands. And now those guys have gone on to lead some huge companies, build some big businesses, lawyers, scientists. They're all they're unstoppable.
That's so cool. That's amazing.
And it's funny, when we went to Thailand on this last trip, they met some of the kids that were being introduced to, and they were asked to say something. And the first thing they said is, "You need to play the Dream Builder games."
Really?
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's cool. That's so rad.
So I think you guys would be amazing for the Dream Builder
That'd be
games.
so fun. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
be
awesome.
perfect for it.
Yeah. That'd be
Because
awesome.
people who can dream, hear from God, open for excellence, it's perfect for them.
That's cool. That's such a good idea. Wow.
So you got, as a family, what's your dream? What do you guys dream about doing together as a family?
That's a great question. I think we've always wanted property and grow up more of like a outdoor kind of life. I grew up in Montana, kind of in the country, and loved it. I loved the freedom of being able to go wherever you want as a kid. And I think there's part of us as parents that would love that for our kids. So I think tangibly, that would be a dream. We'd love to have property. But as a family, I think that's a great question.
Go with me to Alaska and check out some land up there.
Yeah. Oh man, heck yeah. That would be amazing. No?
We spent the summer there.
Really?
6 weeks. We sold pineapple teriyaki chicken with bacon fried rice out of a food truck.
What?
No way.
Yeah, for 6 weeks to raise money for rescue kids.
That's sweet.
So
Yeah.
rad.
Oh my gosh, that's
I love
amazing.
That. Did
Yeah.
your whole family go?
The three of the kids were in school, so they
Okay,
couldn't be.
okay,
But
that makes sense.
Jamin went with us. So Jamin, he popped around. He went to the tackle shop next door, and he'd walk the beach, go fishing over in the pond,
What the heck?
hang out with us.
Where
and
were you guys at?
Homer, Alaska.
Homer. Okay,
Oh
cool.
my gosh, that's where
Kristen's from, yeah.
One of our really good friends.
Oh, really?
She talks about it with the best story.
It's amazing.
It sounds amazing. Yes.
It's
From
a
what she said,
great
that's
place.
Cool. That's awesome. That'd be super rad. I don't know, dream for a family though. That's really. A good
I think
question.
something that I've thought about lately is like watching your kids grow up. It's going to be so fun to figure out what their gifts are and their passions and what God's called them to do. Because I think that has a lot to do with us as parents. We get to lead the way and obviously show him who Jesus is and help him build that connection. But also, eventually, watching our kids kind of help us know that direction would be really, really fun. So I don't know. I think investing in our kids is a massive thing that we'll do.
Yes.
But yeah, I think another core value, if you will, that we would have is showing them the importance of going places. What other people when I traveled. Oh my gosh, the perspective you get for, first of all, the life we have here, how many people actually need help. It's unbelievable. Mm-hmm. So the earlier we can do that with our kids, I think. We're pretty passionate about cultures and traveling, and Ania's for sure. I mean, she spent a while in India, and I think we want to expose our kids to that kind of stuff pretty young.
Yeah. We had a lot of time overseas. I just wish we would have probably done a little bit more. Mm-hmm. This business is not awesome for freedom.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
And I didn't realize that it was going to tie me down, but I think I cracked the code.
Yeah.
Because from the time I got into it, I was always taking the kids to go do stuff. But I would try to find a better business that now it's okay because I've got it under control. But it took a long time to figure that out.
Yeah.
Finding ways that you could take your kids to do things and not be tied down would be huge.
Passive. That's the goal. Mm-hmm. It is hard. That's the same with tattooing. You make money when you're sitting there.
Yep. Yeah.
And that's what's hard. And I think the other hard part is like, I don't want to just pursue a job for the money of it. It'd be more, the impact and influence of your business, I feel like is so important. That's kind of the balance between when we've been starting this other company. I'm like, I want to make sure that the impact, influence, and the culture of our company overrides the desire to have it make money.
Yes.
But then with that coming back, with you making money on your company, how can you pull that back into influencing something in another incredibly positive way? So coming up with those structures early on, I feel like has been hard, but good. Where you're like, how do we actually do this well? Grow a company well, not just financially, but like culture-wise. Same with tattooing. It's been that exact same way. How do you maintain culture over, I don't know, money, I guess. And it comes down to like those small decisions. Is this going to compromise my core values within this company and make me more money? Or am I going to lose money but maintain my integrity within my business of what I'm actually trying to do? And yeah, in the long run, and it pays off way better if you just maintain integrity and follow the Lord in your business. So yeah, that's pretty much
I had a random thought that came back to me is, so you've got the mounts that have stories. Tell me your best hunting story.
Ooh, man. My best hunting story.
Or favorite.
Some of
the one that you go to a dinner and you go, okay, I'm going to win this storytelling story thing.
I don't know. That's a good question. I think a lot of the hunting stories I have would be like, yeah, shooting the deer is awesome, and we've done a lot of that, deer and elk, but it comes back to situationally what we've gotten ourselves into. This last hunting season, we went up to Oregon, and we hunted elk for 9 days. We saw 0 elk for 9 days.
No, that's so discouraging.
Oh, we hiked and hiked. Oh my gosh, it was so brutal.
We hiked 15 miles a day, you said?
Yeah, about 15 miles a day. We hiked a ton.
15 miles.
The weather was pretty good sometimes, terrible other times. It was maybe 25 degrees at night, and we're camping in a tent. And on the last night, we were like, it was me and another guy. And we're like, tomorrow morning is gonna.
What's that?
Ryan Spitz.
Yeah. Yes,
so me and Ryan were
yeah.
up there. So we're like, we'll give tomorrow morning one more shot, and then we'll head home if we don't see anything. And it was supposed to rain the next morning, snow starting in the morning. So we're like, we'll have the morning, and then we can jet early on. It started raining that night, and it was like maybe 33 degrees. It was like so close to snowing, and I was like, oh man, it's raining right now. If it's raining right now, it might snow tonight, but we'll see. We go to sleep with it raining. I wake up and it's not raining. And it was maybe like 11 o'clock at night. And I was like, I don't hear anything.
So quiet.
Yeah, it's quiet. It's so quiet. Maybe it stopped raining. And we'd had a wood stove in that tent every other night. And I'd kept it going for the most part all night long. And that night I woke up at like 2 o'clock in the morning. And I was like, it was cold. It was maybe like 20 degrees. Like, I should probably start the fire. But I just grabbed a puffer, put the puffer on, hopped back in my sleeping bag, and I'm like, we're good. Next thing I know, I'm waking up at 3:30 in the morning to the tent collapsed on top of us with 5 inches of snow. And both of us are like, what just happened? And we're in a big like bell tent. So it's like 16 feet. It's big. It's like this room with one pole in the middle. It's not meant to hold 5 inches of snow on top of it. If I would have started the fire, it probably would have melted all the snow off. But it collapsed the whole tent. So at 3:30 in the morning, we had to pack up and leave. And I feel like a lot of my hunting stories come back to like the camping aspect, like not planning for. There was another time in Montana we went out. The temperature was supposed to be about 18 to 25 degrees on the forecast where we were going.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's campable. We can camp if we have the right gear, and we'll be fine. And we get there, and it was -8. So it was a lot colder than we planned, like way colder. And I didn't have another option where we slept. And I was taking one of my buddies hunting for the first time. He'd never gone hunting. And we just drove from here to Montana, and we got to my buddy's property. And I was like, I think we're just going to have to sleep in -8. And we did. And it was the first time I've ever woken up because my body was shaking so much.
Oh, like, really?
Yeah. So I think it was, again, as like the 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock wake up. I maybe slept for 2 hours because we got there pretty late. And 4 o'clock wake up, I was like, I'm going to get in the truck. it's the only thing I can do. So I hopped in the truck, turned it on, turned the heat on, and then Ryan was with us at that time as well. And we all got in the truck and we're like, let's just start hiking. And so at 4 a.m, we just started hiking, finally warmed up. But geez, that was the coldest I think I've ever been hunting. So it's just all that stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah. I mean, growing up, I've gone on a lot of hunting trips with my grandpa and my dad, and it's all like small situational stuff that's just like hilarious. Like, oh my gosh, I love hunting. It's so fun.
I went elk hunting with Bo, and we stayed up all night long to get out to the place we're gonna go hunting. Mm-hmm. And I said, "Oh, guys, go ahead. I'm just gonna sleep in the cab for a second. I can't even stay awake."
Yeah.
So I lay there, and all of a sudden I hear some noise, and I look out, and there's about 50 elk around me.
No way. And you were in a cabin?
Yeah.
Oh,
well, I was in the cabin of the truck.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And but they were off a little bit, so I saw, okay, get out of the truck really quiet. Mm-hmm. And I got down behind the stump, and they walked and they surrounded me. Like, I'm surrounded by elk.
No
and
way.
then I hear like something just thrashing in the trees, and I'm like, oh, there's the bull. And I'm like, okay, these guys are gonna be blown away. I'm gonna get this bull. And then all of a sudden something snapped. Gone.
No way.
No. I got nothing.
No. They probably smelled you and they were out of there.
It was so crazy. I was literally surrounded. I mean, like the walls away from.
Oh my! So you
elk.
couldn't even move.
No.
What were you gonna do?
Yeah, I was afraid because I thought, well, okay, I can take this one. It was like one right there. I was like, all right, I can take this one.
Did you have it drawn?
Oh yeah,
That's
I was
amazing.
ready to go.
That's amazing. We needed you on our trip. We didn't even. I think the elk were fleeing miles away when we got there.
Well, then of course I was dumb and I told the guys what happened.
At least you knew there were elk there. You were in the right spot.
Yeah.
Oh, that's brutal. Yeah, so then you got crap for the rest of the time. Yeah, I'm sure.
And that was the same trip where all I brought was I think I was 22. All I brought was a bunch of root beer.
You might be onto something. A bunch of root beer. That's your sustenance for the trip.
I felt so gross after that trip.
Yeah. I feel like we did the same thing. It was like taco Doritos and Coke or something. Just terrible choices for our bodies. But.
Yeah, the hunting, the adventure of it, really all of that. It's more like you're going camping.
Yeah,
you're like
with a mission.
You're going camping and you might kill something.
Yeah. And the search for something. That's what I was just talking with, David Endicott. We were just talking about. It's not even the killing part. I've always said, like, you should be sad. It should be sad to kill something.
Yeah.
The weight of killing something should be enough to make you question, should I do this? And if it's not there, you should sit with yourself for a little bit and figure that out. But and that's not why I like hunting. I would say I like hunting for the thrill of the seek. It's always, you don't know what's over the next hill. You don't know what tomorrow morning looks like. It's the same with fishing. Yeah. You go to a new fishing hole on the river and you could catch something, and when you do, it's amazing. It's like David said, he's like, you have high highs and low lows, and they are right after one another. Yeah. There's like, you never know when they're going to happen. It's just like an emotional roller coaster. But this last hunting trip we went on was just really good in that, like, there was a lot of thinking time. It was a lot of hiking, and it was hard, and it was cold, and there was no reward in the sense of finding stuff, but there was so much time with the Lord just talking about process, like how much I actually enjoy looking for something even if you don't find it. And patience. Oh my gosh. It's just like being able to sit still so that he can move. I mean, every time I go hunting, I feel like I talk to the Lord the whole time, and it's always every situation. He's like, hey, there's also a thing in your life over here, like when you're back home, that is this exact situation, and you're not letting me move over here. Like, for example, we wanted to sit in a spot and watch the elk, but everything inside of me is like, I just want to go find the elk. Go find them. But basically the Lord's like, no, sit and let me move. Like, let me move. Give me space to move in your life. And it's exactly kind of where I'm at in life in general. It's like, let him move. you can do the work, you can partner with him, you can put in all this stuff, but until you sit and watch, you can't see what he's doing in your life.
Right.
And so I think it's like hunting is so much that partnership between letting the animals present themselves and you putting yourself in the right position to see them when they do. It's like, yeah, I love it. It's so fun.
Yeah, and if you, if we have this busy life, which is crazy busy, and we don't actually take any time to slow down and find out, are we actually on the right track?
Yeah, right. You're just running the wrong way.
Success can be very deceptive, and you could be doing really good in something, but it's just it's kind of pointless.
Yeah. Onto what?
Yes.
It's true.
Hey, buddy. You feeling better?
Yeah, probably a little bit.
I might use the restroom real quick.
Okay, now it's your turn. It's your
Okay,
turn.
I'm in
You
the
get to
hot
tell.
seat.
Yep, you get to tell your stories.
Oh man, I don't really have many hunting
Go
stories.
towards Mount Shasta.
There you go. Hunting stories, I have only a few. I don't really have many hunting stories. I've only really gone pheasant hunting with my dad and Justin.
Did you enjoy that?
I did. A lot of times though would come back from college. I went to school in Arizona. My family's in North Dakota, and it'd be Christmas break, and my dad's like, "It's still hunting season. Let's go pheasant hunting."
Oh, really?
So I'm used to like warm weather, and it's freezing cold there, and
Yeah.
you can't really wear that thick of layers when you're trying to shoot a gun. So I just remember freezing a lot.
Did you grow up
But-
in a hunting family?
I did. My dad hunts. Yes,
Okay.
for sure. It's different than Montana, though. North Dakota hunting is more pheasant hunting. He pheasant and like geese hunted a lot,
I
and
love bird
then deer. He went deer hunting, but in Montana you more track them. In North Dakota, Minnesota, it's more deer stand
you
kind
see
of a
the
thing.
distance and-
Yeah, you just
yeah.
kind of like sit in a stand for a long time, more so.
Right.
Kind of a thing. So a little bit different, but yeah, my dad was super into hunting.
So
growing
as a
up,
kid,
so-
what were you interested in?
That's a great question. I always loved the outdoors. I would join him with hunting sometimes, but I'm more of I like warmer weather a little bit. So fishing, I like
Okay.
to fish. I was like, that's where I could get behind was
Yes.
fishing. I grew up in lakes country, so Minnesota is known for the lakes,
Yep.
and my family, that's probably where all my favorite childhood memories are, the lakes.
Hmm.
So we have a lake cabin back there, and I just love to do anything revolving around the water. So
Yeah.
that was kind of probably the biggest thing that I loved as a kid. Besides sports, I did mostly running, sports, and dance.
Oh, really?
So yeah, long distance running.
Okay.
It's like that was me, which was great in some times and not so much other times. North Dakota's very flat, which is great, but it's also really windy. So
Oh, right,
you
yeah.
get that. So that always was a bummer with running. But yeah, that was
I went
kind
to
of-
school in Indiana for college.
Oh yeah.
And so we would get up 4 or 5 in the morning to go do our running. And it's
Yeah.
like -10.
Terrible.
So stupid. Like,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Winter running, you're like, why? It takes your breath away. You
Yeah.
can't really breathe fully when it's
Yeah.
that cold. Yeah.
yeah.
So crazy.
So you grew up running. You grew up. What other interests did you have?
I danced a lot.
Okay.
I was really into dance, and I was the only daughter in the family. I have 2 brothers. I'm trying to think what else I was into. School. I feel like growing
You're
up.
academic.
Yeah, I was like,
Girls
you kind
are
of were just
academic.
into, I don't know, we homeschooled for a few years, like when
Okay.
I was younger. So that was super fun. I think that's where I probably learned to love school and education a little bit more is because my mom made it really fun.
So how long did you homeschool?
Till I was in 3rd grade. So
Okay.
however many years.
What was that
like,
transition like?
yeah, that's a good question. We transitioned in the middle of the school year, and it was a school similar to Reading Christian, if you
Okay.
know much about that.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it was a small private
Good school.
So that was super helpful. I was not a social kid at all. So that was
Really?
really hard.
Wow.
Yes, I was very shy. So that was a hard transition.
Are you kind of shy now?
Yeah, I would say more on that side. I'm not as much as I used to be. You question that?
No, I don't think so.
I think I'm better. I don't like if you had to put me in
conversation.
front of us, like one-on-one conversations are fine.
Yeah.
But in front of like a big group of people, not
Okay.
my jam. So that's probably where you see it more.
Yeah.
So school was probably a good thing for me because I was like fearfully shy as a kid. But yeah, so it was like it was hard in some ways, but going to a smaller school helped a lot. And I think I thrived in that kind of environment because you could just get to know everyone. The
Yeah.
teachers knew you, all that kind of stuff.
Was
so.
it a small school?
Yeah, I graduated with 29 kids.
Nice.
So very small.
That would be
school.
great.
Yeah, so it was great. So I feel like that was a good transition. In some ways, homeschooling was awesome, and it would have been cool to keep going with that because you just have a lot more flexibility. But I think I needed a little bit of a school structure. It got me into sports and different things
Yeah.
too, which is fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Do you have strategy? What you guys think you want to do? with schooling for the kids?
Right now, probably, at least for the first few years, would be awesome to homeschool. I feel like that was such a great way to start schooling, and I'm a teacher, so I was like, that sounds fun to me.
Right. If you, I think you would be great.
Yeah, having property would be super rad because I feel like we could do a lot with that. Like, it would just be fun to be outside
start
more.
A co-op if we had property.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that would be sweet. Because I do see, like, the benefits to school. And, like, Adventure Academy, the first year, was Jamin in it?
He was,
year, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So I liked that setup of a more co-op-y kind of thing, where it wasn't all day, every day, and you still were doing school at home. I feel like a hybrid co-ops, I think, are kind of the prime schooling in my...
Yes.
I don't know. In my opinion right now, at least, I would say.
World.
Yeah, because you still get socialized. You get to do things with other kids, maybe have lessons with other kids or whatever it is, an adventure with other kids. But then you're at home majority of the time getting to be taught and like get just foundations at
Has
home.
Ryan talked about doing any new school or has anybody
Honestly, not a
take
ton.
up that mental?
No, I think he's still passionate about it in ways, and he's like, I'd love to see this still happen. He's not the teacher side of it. He's a dream and visionary side of it. And so he's like, he understands now there's a lot that goes into it, a lot more people needed to be on board. No one has really. I've had a lot of parents reach out to me to see if I would do something, and I've always been on the side of...
You kind of need the Ryans and the Anicas.
You do.
You need both.
Yeah.
Ryan is such a rad visionary. He had such a sweet vision for that school.
Yeah.
And then having Ani join in was so super good, like academically, and then you just need funding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it comes back to that.
It's like the team we had was super rad. Like we had so many good people with that school. It was just came down to funding. If we would have had funding or a few more things in place, that probably would have helped. But as of right now, I don't know anyone who wants to take it up. I think I've thought about it. If we had space, because that was the other thing, location. It's hard to be traveling around to different locations unless it's only once a week or something. But I was like, if we had property, I would highly consider doing something then.
Jamin still mentions it.
Yeah, does he? Yeah. That's awesome.
He loved it.
I hear it from so many kids. Like, so many kids miss it. And so do I, honestly. It was the best. It kind of ruined me for teaching in a normal classroom. So
I would love to see Ryan be able to, a whole group of team.
Yeah.
A whole group or team.
Very good.
Be able to work together because worldwide we need an alternative to what school is.
Yeah, for sure.
And that was a great solution.
It
Yes.
It's hard because Reading didn't like it.
Yeah. There was a lot of, which is interesting.
Not people, the city.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
The state or the city?
The city was very against it.
Really?
Made it really hard. We got in trouble so many times from the city for not having permits or this or that. You're on these trails, and we're like, these are public trails, but okay. They would get, it was crazy, the opposition with it, which kind of makes me feel like, which we talked about as a staff a lot, because a lot of them were believers. We're like, there's a lot of opposition because we're trying to go against this big beast of education, you know? And so I was like, it actually did feel like a spiritual attacks in a lot of ways because of all the roadblocks we were hitting. The fact that the city, we had so many parents that were a part of the city, but the city still got us in trouble a lot. You know what I mean? Or worked within the city, I don't know, government and things like that. And yet we still had a lot of opposition. So it was kind of wild. I still feel like there is such a need for that, like you said, across like globally. It really does need to happen, and it would be cool to see something.
Because boys
come
are
of
not
it.
meant to sit in a classroom.
No,
it's just the fact that we've tried all these years, and we keep trying, and boys are just like not playing along.
Yeah, it's true. Even
it's such a controllable atmosphere.
Yeah. It's true. Like, even girls, though, like when we were younger, what we did for school, my mom was a teacher. And so she had a lot of fun teaching homeschooling. She was way more outdoor oriented and things like that, which I look back on. And those first few years of school were so fun. We obviously still were doing school, but we would go to the zoo way more often or this or that, go on field trips and do things because you learn so much more through experience rather than sitting in a classroom. We're not meant to sit in the classroom. And when even subbing the last few years, had the hardest time because there'd be boys who were acting out, or girls, but I'm like, it tends to be boys who'd be acting out. And
I was one of those.
Yes. And in with the school, they're like, oh, you need to do this, or this. Like, these are the protocols. But I know that they just need to go run outside or something for a little bit, and then they'd be fine to come try and learn again. But the school systems are just kind of, your hands are tied as a teacher in a school system. And so there definitely needs to be some reformation in that. But because I see what they try to do overseas, and they try to emulate what we do a lot of times. Like, it's guys, these boys are, I mean, and I know the girls are just academic. They are, yeah.
They are my two girls are the smart ones of the four.
Yeah.
Now in school. And if you put the boys, they will go get stuff done. Yeah. And they just have a different strength. And we need to. So when we did the school feature leaders, the good thing is we had control. So no, this is going to be different. You're a leader. So as a leader, you have different responsibilities than memorizing stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
We're going to put you in leadership roles and fail and figure out why that didn't work.
That's awesome. I love it. That's really cool because it's, different types of learning. There's just a lot of different learners out there. So being able to change the way people learn is really cool.
Well, it'd be fun to put together a local group learning. I mean, all that you guys learned during that should not be wasted.
Yeah, it's true.
Because that would be a crime if it was.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Right.
It's true. And I know they're working on an app with curriculum for a while, but again, it just kind of came down to funding where there was just not enough funding to keep that going. So that was kind of the alternative of, we could get this in people's hands because they could have the curriculum to do it on their own, which was a great idea. Just there was no funding to back it. So it is hard. It would be cool to keep it going because it's true. There is so much we learned in the process. Right. That was pretty fun. So, yeah.
Yeah, because education's not going away. We spend more money on it than pretty much anything in America.
Crazy. I didn't know that.
Like right now, I think the average student is right around $18,000 or $20,000 a student that the government's spending money on.
That's crazy.
And all right, that's a big chunk of money. That's crazy. And we're not getting good results from that.
No.
So what could we do better? I don't have control of it. So that part, I'd kind of throw my hands up and go, all right. Yeah. I do have a teaching degree, but unfortunately I got a teaching degree in an area that will never have a job opening. Computer science and business marketing. Because they don't teach that anymore. They teach math, they teach science, they teach English, they have the core subjects, and unless you go to a private school, there will be no job for that.
Crazy. That is so wild. I couldn't have seen that coming.
Computer science and business are not options to be taught at public schools.
Wild. That is really weird. That's important.
School is that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's also no financial management skills, like Dave Ramsey stuff. Yeah. There's none of that. No financial management taught in any schools.
No.
Unless they really go on their way to do it.
Yeah. Right. Which is funny because in high school, senior year, it was kind of like our school was very small. So it was either you were in like the smarter math or the not as smart math kind of. Yeah. So they're either like pushing you ahead in math or you're just kind of taking the basics. And senior year, I remember the like not as smart a math learned some of the financial stuff that would have helped set all of us up for success. And they barely touched on it, but they still went through some of those things. I was like, that's actually way more important than anything else we're learning. Where we had to take calculus. I was like, when have I used calculus outside of senior year? Never. But I was like, some of those financial things would have been awesome.
Yes.
Yeah, which is so funny.
Yeah.
We have it a little backwards.
I have a tattoo.
Well, I appreciate you guys so much.
Thank you.
So a lot of fun. You guys are
Thank you very much.
Awesome. We're going to definitely go find a way to rescue a bunch of kids, build a bunch of dreams. And see your family thrive.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having us.
This is awesome. This has been fun.
So now we just push stop and we're done.